good morning. Where's my cheat sheet?
Oh, I was at our chair. You're right over here.
Okay. Oh, there it is. All right. Sorry. Too many pieces of paper. Okay. Reminder to please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate, please. The regular meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees is called to order. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Mormon, could you lead us today, please?
Of course. Please join me in honoring our flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is no hesitation before
There's a comma there. Roll call, Dr. Finneman, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Sanchez.
Present.
Trustee Broughton.
Present.
Trustee O'Neill.
Present.
Trustee Stephan.
Present.
Trustee Marmon.
Here.
That's probably true.
Board meeting agenda. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2D2, the board may take action on items of business not appearing on the posted agenda upon a determination by a 2/3 vote of the board, or less if less than 2/3 of the members are present and unanimous vote of those present. That there is a need to take immediate action, and that need for action came to the attention of the local agency subsequent to the agenda being posted as specified. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is confirmed, and we will now convene to close session, and we will be back at exactly 10:15, I believe. Okay, thank you very much. All right. There are two proclamations being approved today. We have students here to read those proclamations. Eleanor Campbell.
Has not arrived yet.
Has not arrived. So we will skip to our second presenter, who is here. Student trustee Andrew Campbell will read the Black History Month proclamation.
Okay. Whereas in 1921, Carter G. Wilson, father of the Black history, established the Association for the Study of Afro-American Life in Washington, D.C., which began the practice of observing the history of African Americans in the month of February. And whereas the month was selected because President George Washington and Abraham Lincoln were born in February, as well as Frederick Douglass, great abolitionist and orator. And whereas within the entire Coachella Valley, the history and culture of African Americans are being recounted and celebrated by all people who understand the significance of one's history to one's humanity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Desert Community College District, at the board meeting of February 14, 2013, acknowledges the contributions of African Americans and proclaims February 2013 as Black History Month. Be further resolved that the Board of Trustees encourages and observes of Black History Month throughout the entire Coachella Valley, entire community of College District. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
I didn't know you were going to ask me right when I was eating the chocolate candy.
Sorry, Andrew. Is Eleanor here yet? No. Shall we, when Eleanor gets here, we will...
Actually, we're going to talk more about how he took a drink while he was talking. That's more.
That's very common these days if you watch TV. It's the new in. Okay. Public comments. Persons who wish to speak to the board on any item may do so at this time. There is a time limit of 3 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic, unless further time is granted by the board. Your comments will be timed, and you will be asked to stop speaking when the timer sounds. And if you will notice up here on the wall, we are now projecting this is our temporary timer, and until we get a more permanent one. And this will have a little faint beep at the end. So that'll a little bit different than the cell phone timer. Please understand the board welcomes your comments but is not able to respond to those comments. Leanne, have we received any requests?
Nope.
All right, hearing none. We move on to the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the special meeting of December 31st, 2012? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the regular meeting of January 18th, 2013? Hearing none, those minutes stand approved. That takes us to agenda item number 8, reports, and the first report will be from ASCOT, John Aurora. John is not here. Okay, Faculty Association, Gary Bergstrom. I know you're here, Gary.
I submitted my report, and I will just let that be my report.
Thank you, sir. College of the Desert Adjunct Association President, David Bayshore. I think Thursday's on a good day to have a board meeting.
David did include with his report that he would be here about 10:50.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Students.
Eleanor's here.
Is this Eleanor? We're going to suspend reports at that point, and at this point, and we're going to ask Eleanor who has arrived, Eleanor Campbell. Would you please come forward and sit at the table there? And we welcome you, and we look forward to having you read the Women's History Month proclamation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made and continue to make historic contributions to the growth and the strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, and whereas American women have played and continue to play a critical political, economical, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of this nation by contributing a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside the home. And whereas American women have played and continue to play a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of volunteer labor force of the nation. And whereas American women have made leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, and the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which created a more fair and just society for all. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been constantly overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the Board of Trustees of the Desert Community College District designate March as Women's History Month. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of Trustees encourages observance of Women's History Month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you very much, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Could we get her to do all the readings for us?
Check on that. Thank you. All right, then we will go back to board reports. We are up to the COD Alumni Association. Jean Marchou. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, Dr. Kinnaman, and most welcome guests. The street fair will hold an extra selling day on Monday, February 18th. We will be open 3 giant days on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday during President's Day weekend. At the street fair, we are rolling into the high season, and larger crowds of customers are attending our event. The Alumni Association recently sponsored the Adjunct Faculty Awards Dinner at Desert Willow and the COD Employee Recognition Awards. In February, this month, we've issued a check for $45,000 to support the Student Campus Work-Study Program. On Monday, April 1st, the Alumni Pathways Student Scholarship Club will take a busload of students to tour USC and UCLA. This student club is also planning a day of fun at the Ice Castle on Friday, April 5th. The Alumni Association's annual Hall of Fame Gala will be held on Saturday, April 20th, starting at 5:30 p.m. at the Rancho Las Palmas Resort. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, sir.
California School Employees Association, CSEA, Laura Jimenez.
Good morning.
Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. In chapter news, with the spring semester now underway, we are looking forward to our chapter meeting on February 22nd, where we will have Dr. Kinnaman as our special guest. His last visit with us early last semester was a great success. During Flex, the classified staff was invited to a very interesting seminar entitled Creating a Culture of Respect. We learned that if diversity is about who is at the table, then inclusion is about how we plan, prepare, and share the meal, and how inclusion is essential to creating a culture of respect. Mary Dahl presented great material on recognizing cultural context for our actions and help us to understand how interactions can result in kinds of microaggressions, micro-assaults, micro-insults, and micro-invalidations. We, the classified staff, greatly appreciate Dr. Kinnaman's commitment to nurturing a culture of respect towards and among classified staff through programs such as this. He has as well repeatedly reaffirmed our contributions to this college and our contributions to the success of our students. In CSEA state news, state law changes, in your board agenda, you will see our initial proposal that is specifically to address changes in law from 3 assembly bills that the governor signed into law and which took into effect January 1st of this year. CSEA members and staff worked long and hard through the last days of the session to ensure passage and signature of the all CSEA-sponsored legislation. And I included a summary of what we had in my report. I won't read that. But they basically were 60-day layoff notice, right to reasonable release time, and permanent employment. We are proud to report that the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, Board of Administration unanimously re-elected Rob Beckner as its president. Beckner will be serving his 9th term as the president of a $252 billion pension fund. He was first elected to CalPERS board in 1999, and Beckner has worked for the Napa Valley Unified School District for the past 35 years as a classified staff. And he has been a member of the CSEA Board of Directors since 1996 and currently serves as the association's past president. I just again wanted to reiterate how we are very appreciative of Dr. Kinnaman and what he continues to do as we work together to accomplish the things that are important to the college and to the students. And again, thank the board for your support for our students, our staff, and all the employees of the college. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. COD Foundation, Jim Hummer. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Morning. I have 3 quick items. First of all, we completed our board retreat, which is a day-and-a-half retreat between the board and our consultant, Lester Consulting, and I think we had a really great exchange of ideas and setting some goals. And now the staff's job, along with the consultant, is to take a lot of the information that was generated at that and put it into a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, which then will come to you so you actually see kind of where we're going. One of the topics that came up was how to increase communication between the staff and our board, and then also between our board and the trustees. And we're going to look at those ideas to see how we can keep the communication flow going. Second of all, we had a great, thanks to Dr. Neary and our staff, event here in the multi-purpose room this last week, which we brought the sponsors of scholars or donors for scholarships and scholarship recipients together. It was a very fun event, but it was also very moving to be able to meet and see the donors and the scholarship recipients meet each other. And as you saw in the newspaper, it was covered very nicely. Third, next Thursday night, we have the Stepping Out for COD event at the McCown Theater with P.B. Newirth and Brian Stokes Mitchell. Hope you all will step out and come to the event. We've been doing very well both in sponsorships and ticket sales. At this point, I think we're at gross revenues of about $250,000, so we're doing quite well on that event. That's it, and hope to see you next Thursday night.
Thank you very much, Jim. Academic Senate, Zarel Becker. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm watching the clock instead of you here. I have 4 items I'd like to cover if I have enough time. First, I'd like to start with the faculty disciplines list, which you've been hearing about for some time. I spent about an hour with our new hire in HR, Sam, and I am very impressed with him. He gets it. He knows what he needs to do. And if he's given the time to work on it, I think he'll have all of the full-time faculty and possibly even all of the adjunct for the disciplines going through program review by the next board meeting. Stan's looking at me like, adjunct? Once this project is completed, it's going to take maybe 30 minutes a year to keep it updated. So it's really something we just want to get into place and done and off of everybody's list. Very important. Distance education, there's some things I forgot to put into my report. Once we get AP 4105 through the approval process, we will have a definition of regular effective contact. And the next mission is to find out how we're going to monitor and enforce that. So the Educational Technologies Committee is working on some procedures, and it's a little bit tricky because we run up against how much do you monitor faculty before you're interfering with what they're doing in the classroom? How much education and training can we require before we run up against the fact that we can't hire people fast enough and get adjunct trained? And so there's some different things that are going on there, but we are moving forward and hope to have some things done there. The curriculum committee is challenged. We normally spend fall semester working on classes and spring semester working on procedures. So prerequisites was high on the list, disciplines was high on the list. However, the state continues to load us with things that we have to do. The latest Title V on repeatability just came out, and we've been scrambling for the last 2 weeks to figure out what it says. We finally decided we need to take repeatability off 87 courses. That will happen today at the curriculum meeting, and now it will affect primarily kinesiology and visual arts, and they're going to have to scramble to figure out how to keep their programs going under the new rules. So a very difficult issue for all of us. We also have the CID. Anytime something comes back without approval, we need to scramble to get a new course in place. So we're very busy in that area, probably busier than we'd like to be. And finally, enrollment management is in progress. We have 10 department chairs and the union representatives and a couple of administrators ready to work with our consultant, Don Burr, starting next Thursday. So we're looking forward to that. Everyone met him at a nice kickoff session, and I think that we're going to make some good progress there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome, very much.
And I could talk that fast.
Governing board, would you begin with Trustee Broughton, please?
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day. It was...
Start the clock.
Start the clock. Oh, we're going to have a trustee training in respect for fellow trustees, but we will mention John's name. I attended the Palm Desert Library reopening. It was a very nice event. It will add to the ambiance of our library, not having that other side empty, but being back to its usual vibrant community self. The Palm Desert Rotary 2013 Man of the Year, where we honored a former president, Bill Cronin, a gentleman that's given much time to this community, to this valley, and certainly deserves to be the Man of the Year. An agenda meeting, and the East Valley Friends and Alumni monthly meeting. Our 2 projects this year, as I mentioned before, are researching the SunBus relationship with our community college and working on our annual Colleges for You for our 6th graders. So there will be more to come on that. This Friday or tomorrow opens the fair, so I hope to see you at the fair. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John.
Trustee Marvin, please.
Okay, John, we started.
You have I already have turned in my report, some of those same things, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Attended a meeting with Sister Cities, and one of our sister cities, East Zihuatanejo. They sent some dignitaries here to talk to the city of Palm Desert, and we have always done a lot of things with the college. We We're working very closely with them in our fire academy and with their Bombero program. And we've done some things with artists before that came up here, so we'll probably do that again. Went to some flex. I just wanted to point out, you'll see some of this in the paper. It says college credit plan for some free online courses. More and more we're hearing about online, and I was told by one of our deans that there was a program at Flex that was very interesting, and it was. Thank you, Bina. A gentleman from Vice Chancellor of Technology and Learning Services for South Orange County did a program about this in some sense. And what he really said was, in the future, there's around 4,500 colleges now. In the future, 15, 20 years, half of them are going to be gone. And right now, probably at Berkeley and Stanford, they're meeting right now on how to survive. Those are the colleges that are going to survive, and the Harvards and all those. And some of the classes, some of the colleges like us are going to survive. The ones in the middle that are charging a ton of money and you're not getting very much are the ones that aren't going to be around. So we have to start looking how we can work together. This article basically says, over the past year, section that many leading universities have been offering free digital variations of their most popular courses, allowing thousands, tens of thousands of students to take the class at the same time. I think if somebody had to have a degree and it said something on their degree like in conjunction with Stanford, it would be more important than just straight from college to desert. So they're already meeting at what they can do to get their share. And certainly we could work together with them. I would like to bring this gentleman back to talk to us about what he would do if he were here. Thinking about the future so we can get ahead of the curve and be offensive about this. More and more you see colleges that are trying to have more students, and you can do this with the new technology, and you can teach more than 30. Or we could have a class here that there might be 50 that want to crash the class that we could have taken in another room or in some other way service our students. I think that if I was a student, I'd rather have a degree that said in College of Desert in conjunction with Berkeley. To me would be kind of neat. And if we don't get on this right now, I think we're going to fall behind. And I would love to bring this guy in to say, if you worked here, what would you do? Because he was outstanding, and he's talking about survival. And if we get off ahead of everybody else, I think it'll help us. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Stefan.
Okay, I was very fortunate because I'm always glad to see when Flex has some evening activities, because then I can attend those since I work during the daytime. And this time I was able to attend 3. The first one was a Flex presentation by our foreign students. And I will say the foreign students really did a phenomenal job of presenting the hardships they go through, the challenges they have, how those challenges are met, some of the things that have happened to them. It was just really enlightening to hear all of the things that they go through and how they are still able to succeed and how we've been able to help them over the years and over their stay here at COD. The next presentation I was able to attend was called Inspiring Your Students. And at my school that day, we had just been informed that we have to change the way that we teach things so that we're no longer teaching students to respond with A, B, C, or D, because it gets rather embarrassing when they go for an interview and someone asks them their name and they go B. Is that the correct answer? And so we were doing frameworks, and some of the teachers were upset because for so long now we've been indoctrinated with the California high school exit exam to teach them, you know, how to respond and how to eliminate things and get down to the right answer, which might be B or C. And inspiring your student gave me a lot of insight on different ways to mind map and help the students think. And one of the other things that I got out of that session was I had the opportunity to actually be in the Tutoring and Academic Skills Center, which I never have been in since I've been here on the campus, and actually talk to some of the individuals that help the students and find out how they actually operate that area of the college. The next night was the annual Adjunct Awards Dinner, and the Alumni Association did an outstanding job. It was really wonderful, and I think, I know that all of the adjunct faculty were very appreciative of the consideration of all of their efforts here that were acknowledged that night. And it was a very, very nice event, very well attended. And it was nice to have had it on during the flex time. I also was able to attend a grand opening of new pharmacy over in Coachella. And the reason I bring that up is because when I go to these events, I usually wear my name badge and people from the community have the opportunity to talk to me. And it was very nice to meet the new proprietors of the new pharmacy and just to talk with them about things that, you know, we could do to help students out. And people come up and I have the opportunity to discuss with them some of the things that we can do to help them get their children involved in the college as they are getting older and older and up to the age of entering college, so that they keep that in the forefront in their child's education. I also attended another Cash for College night at one of the high schools in my area. And I also had the opportunity with the president of the college to meet the new superintendent of Desert Sands Unified School District, Gary Rutherford. And that was a very nice event, and there were a lot of people from the community at that event. Then this last week, I also attended the Spring Scholarship Reception, and that was hosted by the foundation, and it was a great opportunity, I felt, and it was the first time I ever remember this happening, where the donors and the scholarship recipients were able to meet each other. And that, I think, was really wonderful. To have the donors actually be able to speak to the students that receive scholarships, and what they're doing, what their plans are, and also for those students to hear why that donor donated money for somebody that they don't know for their education. And I think it brings the community together. And that's about all I've done.
Thank you.
Besides teach.
Trustee Sanchez.
Well, thank you, Chairman O'Neill. And it is always an honor to address the board and our staff and our faculty. I hope everyone here is watching and having a happy and loving Valentine's Day. Having just served for only 3 months, my learning curve is going great. And I want to publicly thank the board, the staff, the faculty, the president, and everyone that has been mentoring me and just asking questions when I don't know the answer. So thank you. And today being Valentine's Day, provides a good segue to 3 of my most meaningful events that I went here to the college. I attended with my fellow trustees, COD staff, and our president, Bill Croning's award luncheon, Citizen of the Year, given by the Palm Desert Rotary. As a member of the Rotary, service before self is one of our key missions. So having gone to that event and having been a student at COD, a part-time faculty member and now a trustee, I value all the work Dr. Cronin did and hope to live up to his standards. Our organization of the Rotary doesn't just bestow this award just not to anyone. They couldn't have chosen a finer human being who represents the best of College of the Desert. I personally, as I mentioned, look up to him. So at this event, I just want to share with you, I got a chance to sit with a lot of our COD Foundation members, our distinguished electeds. So I was just amazed. I want to thank all the COD Foundation board members for stepping up and supporting COD. And this reminds me of another memorable event I attended, the COD Scholarship Recipient event. Many of our COD Scholarship student winners gave testimonies along with many of the foundation members, especially our AB 540 DREAM Act students. It was very heartfelt and just so proud to be part of the COD family. It was so beautiful and memorable. This is what COD is about, and why we are, all of us are here for. We are truly an organization that makes dreams come true for every one of us. During this month, I also attended and went to Sacramento with trustee training at the Community College League of California with Chairman O'Neill, President Joel Kinnaman, and every board of trustee has received a little manual that I provided them. I also have distributed a PowerPoint presentation and online resources where we can all go to if we need more help about physical responsibilities. Most importantly, I learned the process of how to approach financial responsibility with an active moral compass. This is why today I have given this so we all are aware of what our responsibilities as elected. I hope to have further discussion and in-depth workshop of best practices that we can do. Following a quote from Chapter 1, page 6 of our Community College Manual, Board of Trustees, this is like our narrative of what happened at the event, so bear with me. The Board of Trustees and our Chief Executive Officers share the responsibility to ensure that our community college district enjoys physical health and stability. Boards are responsible for setting fiduciary policy and monitoring compliance with relevant laws, regulations, standards, and board policies. They do this on behalf of the public. And I too love this on behalf of the public, with strictly scrutiny and public transparency. I also learned in Sacramento as an elected trustees, we ultimately answer to you, the public, the community, the district, because you elected us. The events that I've gone to was, most recently was yesterday, the State of the Transit Report. What a wonderful event to have gone and represent College of the Desert. I too bring my little badge and so proudly wear our badge to tell us about College of the Desert. One of the key points that he mentioned was transportation makes America work. It's making us go to work. It helps us educate. It's no longer just a mobility, but a pathway to opening up doors. Desert readership, and most importantly, here in the Coachella Valley, ridership has increased at an alarming rate, not only in the Coachella Valley, but throughout the nation.
At least $50,000 of it thanks to the alumni.
And we want to thank the alumni. Thank you for bringing that up. That's very, very important that we do mention these things. Thank you very much. The Desert Hot Springs Women's Club annual scholarship luncheon I also attended, very proudly. We gave over $3,000 to our local students going to college. We also attended the Desert Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce. Our keynote speaker, Congressman Raul Ruiz, mentioning the 3 pillars that education here in the Coachella Valley, we share that mission of educating our future workforce. We also, I attended the College of the Desert Flex Day workshops. What a fantastic job that was. The instructors, the staff that put that together, bringing that beautiful Nobel laureate, educating, telling the faculty to share their stories, understand the students. What amazing to bring that gentleman. And the other workshop I went to that Sorrell put on, Student Success Task Force, and aligning that and Adrian putting that as well on. It's my first time, so I'm just taking little notes. I'm the eager beaver. So another event that I attended was the Pathways to Success Scholarship event as well. And I don't want to take up much more time, but just 3 more things. The college, I went to my first college planning council, so that was very interesting as well. And I attended the COD ASCOG meeting. Thank you very much, Andrew, for inviting me to the student governance. That was a very learning opportunity. I think you're going to mention something about what you guys discussed in your time. And I attended a COD line-by-line financial aid workshop. So I got to see, I was in the place of the student. What are we doing to help these students? And what is COD actually doing in our life? What a great hands-on opportunity that COD, what we're giving to the Coachella Valley. We need to start talking about these great things that we're doing and the great staff that put this on. So I was part of that. So I now have the opportunity, and I'm humbly giving, along with a student-led workshop for tomorrow at the Desert Hot Springs. We're having the basic financial aid workshop from 4 to 6 at the Boys and Girls Club, and we're partnering with Pathways to Success. They provided us with the materials, and we're very excited, and I want to thank, once again, Adrian. Personally, we were putting all the little flyers together. I went to Upward Bound, and we put those flyers together, and then I went over to the EOP office, and the trio got those flyers. I appreciate that. That was very last minute, and I know all of you are working so hard, but to provide that information for me in the last minute was very, very helpful. So we already have 30 families that have RSVP to that event. So I'm very excited, and we're going to also do another road show next Friday from 4 to 6 at the Boys and Girls Club. So it's the basic financial aid workshop, and it's going to be both in English and Spanish. And most importantly, it's going to be doing testimonies from our students. The president of the ASCOT is also going to be talking. So, so I look forward to working with every one of you for betterment of COD in a constructive, nonpartisan cooperation. This is my promise, and this is my heartfelt Valentine to the Coachella Valley and COD. So I treasured this time with you. Thank you. And I'll see you guys all next month. It's sooner on campus. And thank you, Chairman O'Neill and other trustees, for mentoring me on how to be a better and more respected trustee. Thank you again.
Thank you. Very motivating. Student Trustee Campbell.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I wasn't here last month, so I'm going to put some of that in there, too. I attended the Sunnyland tour, which was a flex event. It was nice. Got to hang out with faculty, and also Mary J. Sanchez was there, so it was great. I attended the COD Adjunct Award Ceremony. This event was held at the Desert Willow Golf Resort. The award, we're honoring adjuncts that have been at COD for up to 25 years of dedication. Once again, congratulations, and keep up the good work. I also attended the Meet the Faculty event in the Hill. The students and faculty enjoyed their lunch together and sharing information and experience of college life. I am currently chairing the March in March event. We have lots of work to do in a little time. I have many of our students leaders attending the committee. I see this event as being a success. We are planning on taking 100 COD students to Sacramento, California. I would like to thank Trustee Mary Jan Sanchez for attending the first March in March committee. Thank you. I also attended the Spring 2000 Scholarship Procession. The students had the opportunity to meet the donors of the scholarships. It was really organized really well. I liked when we first walked in. They basically had someone to agree to host you, and they had balloons all set up in certain areas so we can find the tables, and the donors were there. And it seems like all the donors were communicating with the students, and I really enjoyed the speeches that were given by the students and also the donors and some of our foundation. I really appreciate that event, so thank you. And also thank you for inviting me to all the other events too. It's really nice for it builds networking, and for me, and also it helps me learn techniques and skills and communication. So thank you for inviting me. I met with President Joe Kinnaman on January 14th, and he told me some good news. He said that he was going to be able to have 12 to 15 general use computers for students. So thank you, Joe Kinnaman. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. My turn. I would like to congratulate the Flex Committee and staff development for great Flex. I was able to attend a few events, and that included the president's message. And I want to thank the alumni for their recognition of faculty and staff for their years of service. That's always a pleasurable event. And thank you for taking on the responsibility for funding that. And I attended the tech luncheon, and Dina was kind enough to show me around and meet some of the vendors, and I was able to meet our former police chief in Palm Springs, and who's now working for a project we approved at last month's board meeting, which now I better understand, which is our early warning system for earthquakes, which is being housed at this campus, which is quite exciting. And at some point, we may want to have a little bit more information about that for the board, so we know what we actually, now I know what we approved. And that's nice. I did attend the Sunnylands retreat along with Trustee Sanchez Fulton, and I found that to be extremely interesting, and I'm curious as to the way it was billed, where we are going to go with this. So perhaps sometime in the future we can get a better understanding of how Sunnylands would like to partner with the college and the college staff. So I think that would be very important information for the board. For 3 days, Dr. Kinnaman, Dr. Sanchez, and I were in Sacramento at the board conference. Trustee Sanchez was there as a new trustee, I was there as the chair, and Dr. Kinnaman was there to monitor us. Keep us in line. Before I talk and give the board a little bit more information, which I'm going to do throughout today's agenda about what we learned, I do want to comment on the fact that Dr. Kinnaman is extremely well known, extremely well liked, and highly respected up and down the state. I've met a lot of people who know him, who were very congratulatory of us having him as our superintendent president, and I think somewhat envious in some cases. He knows trustees, he knows, of course, CEOs, he knows members of the BOG, the Board of Governors. He knows the Chancellor quite well, because he was the only one the Chancellor recognized as he was leaving his speaking engagement with us. So it was a very fulfilling event for me. We also have some friends in common from years ago that I worked with 25 years ago in San Francisco. So it was quite an interesting weekend. In addition to being very interesting, it was extremely informative, and I would highly recommend that with what limited funds we have, that the board attends as many of these events as they possibly can. Our travel budget is very limited, but I think at least attending one event a year would be very helpful. One of the things that I found most informative was a handout called the Board and CEO Roles. And since I have been on this board, I have always been confused. And I have admitted that a number of times as to what, we make policy, we're the what, and he's the how. But that just seemed too simplified, because if you look at our agenda, we're a lot of the how also. And I've made copies of this for all of the board, because what this document does is actually tell us what we should be doing. It is the most comprehensive document I have ever seen with regard to the duties of the board and the duties of the president. It tells us what we should be doing in all aspects of the college, as well as what we should not be doing. And it goes into organizational leadership, strengthening the board and the CEO relationship. What are our responsibilities to educational programs and services? One of them, they said, is we're to define student success. That's our responsibility. We should set what the district's definition of student success is. We have, of course, have fiscal affairs responsibilities. And I know as a board in the past, many of us have questioned how far are we responsible. This document finally explains some of that has been somewhat kept from us over the years. So I found this to be extremely valuable. And what I would like to do is have copies for everybody. Take a chance, take some time, look at it. If you would like us to discuss this in more depth in another meeting, we could. I would also see this as possibility of a document that could be added to the board's self-evaluation, because it again says what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. And so it might be something we want to incorporate in our self-evaluation process. So I found that to be extremely, extremely helpful. Another document, I don't know if we have, and maybe Leanne can answer this. Do we have a reference section somewhere in the president's office for board members, for board documents, where we keep copies?
I do have copies of various publications that the league has put out.
Here's another one that's very, very helpful. It's called the Community College Trustees Board Chair Handbook. And you become chair before you get to go to the meeting. And if you know you're going to be chair, because we have a rotation cycle, this might be something that you want to read prior to assuming a position. So I'm going to give this to you so you can memorize it. There's a test next month. Real quick, I also attended the Library Association, the Library Reopening, excuse me, the Central Campus Redevelopment Committee. We are going to have a presentation later today from them that is going to be extremely important, because that will update the board, and I have some other information regarding that, which I'll bring up at that time. I did attend the Citizen of the Year for Dr. Cronin, who was a friend and mentor and someone I worked with very closely for many years, and it was a great pleasure. And I attended the agenda review. And I do want to comment, even though I was unable to attend Monday's donor event for the students, seeing that wonderful article in the Desert Sun was such a pleasure for a change. And I really appreciate the foundation's efforts on that, and to get that going and to make that the event such a public and noteworthy event of what we are really doing for our students. And I've taken up too much time, and I apologize for that. Mr. Earl's counting my minutes, I can tell. Just teasing. Okay. We are now adding a new section to this report. Trustee Sanchez?
Thank you. May I add just a plug for what's going on campus, Chairman O'Neill? Just wanted to mention that to keep and mark your calendars, we're going to be, the College of the Desert Dramatic Arts Company and Shelter from the Storm will be presenting the Vagina Monologues February 22nd, 23rd at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Pollock Theater on campus, College of the Desert. Tickets are $20 and $10 for students. Also, I just want to put a plug on February 20th, the Cup of Happy, a program that is, I just want everyone should go to. They have a reception opening for the artists there. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. We are now adding a new report section to the agenda. Dr. Kinnaman, the President, will be providing the President's report. Dr. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Trustee O'Neill. And again, I am so happy that the board has taken the time. I know your time's very, very precious, but you take the time to participate in many activities and do so many things to support the college. And again, I know staff and faculty and all of us appreciate that commitment that you provide. One thing I would like to note, just listening to the reports and many of the comments today, that I was pleased that we spent a lot of time talking about students and students' success and educational issues, and that's really where we want to be focused. And I heard that all through all the reports, and so that's very, very positive, I think, for a message for us to be sending out. I also want to recognize, you know, we come and we gather at these meetings, but there's so many faculty and staff that are on the campus doing yeoman's work. They're kind of silent, and they're not people that we see on a regular basis. But I just want to say how much I appreciate, and I want to acknowledge those faculty and staff, because it's not very often that we have an opportunity to thank them and recognize them. And for the small number that's here, it's there are many multiples of people just like this that are throughout the campus. In addition, I want to thank Stan and his work that he's been doing with providing professional development opportunities on campus. We heard a couple of them that were alluded to today, and we've got ongoing plans for to continue with professional development and working with our staff on areas that they feel would be valuable for them. And in closing, I'll just say that we are continuing to move forward. We're aggressively moving forward on our work in enrollment management and our student success initiatives. And I look forward to coming back in a few months and providing some very positive outcomes for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kinman. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, Roman numeral 9. All items on the consent agenda will be considered for approval by a single vote without discussion. Any board member may request that an item be pulled from the consent agenda to be discussed and considered separately in the action agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Action agenda. Item proclamation, Black History Month. We've already read the proclamation. Thank you, Andrew. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation of Black History Month as presented?
Approved. I'm sorry for just overstepping, but I was so excited about that. So
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Student trustee Campbell, advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action item number 2, proclamation Women's History Month. Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All student trustee Campbell? Sorry.
Oh, whatever.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. All right, President's section. Recommendation for naming of the Garrow Athletic Quad. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes. I would just like to say that I think this is a great idea, and I look down to Trustee Mormon, who presented this to us some time ago. It's wonderful to have a chance to say thank you to donors that have given us money in the past and to continue to honor their commitment and their help to this college. So it's a good way for us as a college to once more say thank you. And John, thanks for working on this, and Dr. Kinman, thanks for making it work out.
I had the opportunity to talk to Shar Whitaker, who's a former faculty member of Emeriti here, and who's also the trustee parent's daughter of the Garrows. And she was extremely excited about this happening. And the Garrow family has contributed a great deal of money to this college over many years. And very excited about this, and when we make this happen, when we finish it and put up whatever we're going to put up, let us hope that it is something that is not just a plaque stuck to a side of a wall, but something that is memorable in that area of the campus. But again, I want to thank John for initiating this also. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recommendation for naming of the Wright Tennis Center. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion?
Again, it's a wonderful opportunity to say thank you. I hope it also encourages donors to this college, because they'll know that we just don't throw away that help that they gave us. And it helps us to honor them, and they'll know that that commitment is a forever commitment. So I thank you for that.
And just to clarify, the Wright Gymnasium was named after the contribution from the Wright family, and now we're tearing that down, and the tennis courts that will be going in that area will assume that name.
Yes, as we continue to grow, those things are going to come up every once in a while. We don't want to forget the people who helped us when we really needed it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you again, John, for leading us on that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, student trustee Campbell.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Human Resources, item number 1, new appointment leadership. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2, approval to hire an independent contractor. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of an independent contractor as presented?
You do?
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Actually, I'd like to say thank you for bringing this back. When we voted for the concept we did, you promised you'd bring it back, and you did, and I thank you for that.
Yes, I would like to add additional comments on this, if I might. Again, as we're moving forward, we went through the process of review with the commissioner. Staff developed a report on how to ensure to our community and to the commissioner and the commission how we were going to make sure that we were going to stay in compliance and respond to everything that they found in their findings. And so one of the many ways was to create another set of eyes to ensure that we're looking at everything, doing our due diligence, and also that with it reporting to me kind of takes it out of the mainstream and with some objectivity. And so I'm very excited that we're moving forward with this recommendation. I think it really demonstrates to the community and to the commission that we're serious about being accountable and doing what is right. And I'm looking forward to finding the most talented person that can help us ensure that compliance in our athletic programs occurs.
And that was high on that list of things that needed to be
Yes.
done. And I think it's important that this person be a person of integrity that's respected by the community. So I think it's a good move in the right direction.
And of course, someone who's knowledgeable.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of rules and regulations that none of us are familiar with.
I was mentioning to
Don's shaking his head.
I was mentioning to Trustee O'Neill the other day that I had stacks of eligibility forms for all the athletes that I was reviewing and signing, and as I was going through those, you just have that feeling in your gut that I'm not really accustomed to being an athletic reviewer for compliance issues. And so, again, as we're looking at the organization and trying to see where we have gaps, this is one less gap that we'll have. And so I appreciate your consideration on this item.
And we hope you can fill this as quickly as possible.
I'd like to thank the president because my dog Stewie is now eligible for the track team. Thank you, President.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Don't do that.
Hearing none. Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Fiscal Services budget transfers. Do I have a motion to approve the budget transfers as presented?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion's carried. Fiscal Services, got a little ahead of myself here. The 2012-2013 CCSF 311Q Quarterly Financial Status Report. Do I have a motion to approve the 311Q and Quarterly Financial Report as presented?
You
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Having of a question on that. Our quarterly, being new on the board and having just been trained on our financial and physical responsibilities that board members have, is this something that we submit to is that part of our whole accreditation? I just want to clarify.
Part of the state law, but Dr. Kinman, do you want to address that, please?
Yes, this is a report that we do submit to the Chancellor's office.
Thank you.
And it also is something when, there is a tight accreditation because when the commission is looking at the solvency of a college, these types of reports, it's important that we can demonstrate what position we are and that we're in good fiscal standing.
Are we having a presentation?
I know we're going to have a presentation on the budget later this afternoon. I think Wade just wants to be available if there was any additional questions on this.
Are there any questions?
Actually came in wearing his sunglasses to be incognito, so I wasn't sure about that.
We're not going to get the rip and tear and separate?
We'll do that this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. All right. Are there any questions or any additional discussion regarding the CFS 311 quarterly report? Okay, hearing none. Student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Item number 3, destruction of Class 3 records. Do I have a motion to approve the destruction of Class 3 records as
So moved.
presented?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I was looking through the details on the college website, and wasn't sure because there's like a lot of information. What were you legally allowed to, 5 years, destroy? And we destroy those paperwork. So, see if I can get it open.
Wait.
Oh.
Wait, leave.
Yeah.
Wade, did you want to address destruction of records?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're open.
For at our last meeting, you were not here, and we spent a great deal of time talking about this, but we'll definitely update.
Right, and I do apologize for not being at the last board meeting. I was actually in Sacramento going over the budget with that budget review. The destruction of records is something that College of the Desert has not really formally done since its origination. So this is the first time this is coming to the board. And the reason it's coming to the board is part of the whole bond project. The warehouse is going to not be the warehouse anymore. And that's where these records are housed. So when we started looking at the records and which ones, because we have an imaging project that's going on, we started looking at the records that we were going to keep, image, and those that had no relevance, destroy. And the records we're talking about today are the records that have no relevance. They're classified as the third class of records, and there's no, they go back to the beginning of time at this college, and there's no need to keep those. The records that we're going to keep will be imaged, and then they'll be maintained on our server here at the college, and we're in that process right now. Lots of records have already been sent to the imaging company as part of the imaging project, and those are being imaged. Those that were done on microfiche are being transferred over to our new imaging project. So they will all be in the same format when it's all said and done. These records that we've chosen to destroy now, which there are several tons, will be destroyed on campus. The company will come here, shred them right on campus so that no records leave the campus. They'll be shredded paper, and then that will be sent for recycling. So any specific questions I can answer.
Having been in the warehouse and seeing the mounting of records, it's about time we've done something.
Right. When we're through this process, there will no longer be a need to keep hard copy records on the campus. What we're doing at this initial break, obviously those financial aid records and those student records are all already on microfiche, and those are the ones that are being transferred over. The other records that are permanent, we will scan and store that way. Once you have a scanned copy of the record, it becomes the official record. And then at some point, we would come back and destroy those. My guess is for the next 7 years, you will see me come to the board, or someone come to the board, and say, it's time to destroy the records annually, because we're keeping 7 years back. We're only required on most of these to keep 3. So, but we're keeping 7 years back, being very conservative, and as each year comes through, we'll destroy another section of those records.
Thank you. You got some more questions?
Could you comment a little bit more? One of the things I brought up last time was one of the things that was there to be destroyed, and you might be making copies, was the asbestos.
Was the
asbestos that they found on campus when they were
the asbestos records?
Right.
Those have been handled, outdated. The records that summarize are the final copies that are being kept. The worksheets and all those papers that don't summarize or that were used in the summarization are being destroyed. So it's similar to, and I'll use payroll as an example. Right now we have all the timesheets ever created on this campus. All those timesheets lead to a W-2. All you're required to keep by Title V is the W-2, the summary of what all of that amounted to. That's very similar in the final reports of the asbestos. Those are permanent records for the campus. But the detail and all of that that led up to it can all be destroyed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, board?
No, I appreciate on this list that it clearly tells us what will be destroyed and what's being kept. And my concern was not whether or not we were destroying the sheets of who called in, but that we had some sort of redundancy in our student records and in those items that are mandated by law that we keep.
Right.
So that's, having it in one place is good, knowing that we have a backup.
Right. And that's the other part of the project that we're in the process of right now with the imaging. But those aren't the records that we're destroying at the board today.
Anything else?
I mean, John will be glad that all of his parking tickets are going to be.
Michael, I got
And
up.
my grades.
Michael, I just got up because it's on. I just asked them to put it up here so that you can see what you were talking about, Vicki.
And this, by the way, is the summary of all of the actual inventory sheets that lists out every single item that is being destroyed. We are maintaining those records.
Thank you for putting that up.
Thank you.
Yes, right there, security and parking, John. Your citations are going to be destroyed.
Good. Thank you,
Okay,
Wade.
sure.
All right. Any other questions? All right, then, student trustee Campbell?
Say aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Item number 4, notice of completion, Math Science Technology Center Landscaping Project, Marina Landscaping, Inc. Do I have a motion to approve the notice of completion as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
There's several that we're going to approve. Could we do them together possibly?
Is that the will of the board?
Yes.
Okay, that would be items number 4, 5, 6, 7 is, yes.
They're
No,
all
that's a
notices
different,
of completion.
Right.
that's a different building, though. Are you comfortable with that being included? Okay. And item 8, item 9.
That's it.
Okay, so we are moving on by consensus on items 4 through 9. Any discussion of these items?
Just to inform everyone, those are just notice of completion, so we know that.
They're all notice of completions at the science math building and the one for the construction of the former plant that was by the central plant by the gymnasium. Any discussion? Hearing none, student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. That takes us to item number 10, notice of intent to award contract for the visual arts project. Do I have a motion to accept the motion as presented?
So
We do.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Not only that, this is bid packages 1 through 20, so we are taking those as a whole under this item.
Good. The question I would have is, are all these the low bids?
They are.
They all were. They are. I mean, there might be another reason sometimes.
There may have been a bid that was lower that didn't qualify because
Okay.
it was non-compliant, but all compliant low bids are on the bid.
Or the only bid? It could be a situation where they only
Right.
bid too.
Yes. And those were, if they weren't in the ballpark, we certainly would be going out again.
Correct. We do often do that. If there seems to be a huge disparity, we'll put it out for rebid.
Good.
And since we are in fact acting as the general contractor on our buildings now, this makes sense to do this way. Okay, any other questions, discussion? All right, hearing none, student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion has carried. All right, item number 11. Change order number 2, Math Science Technology Center, Baker Electric, Inc. This is a change order. Do I have a motion to approve the change order as presented?
So moved.
So moved, been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion's carried. Academic Affairs, item number 1, approval of articulation agreement. Do I have a motion to approve the articulation agreement as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, other than, I think it's an opportunity that we're offering student success to our local high school students.
Yes.
What we're doing is building, it appears to me that what we're doing is building a bridge that gives them the opportunity, once they've successfully completed some units here at the school, to get college credit for their high school work. I love it that it's a double-edged sword, that they don't get the credit unless they've shown their ability here at the school. I like it that it brings them in and shows them that they can do college work, so I thank you for that.
I also want to ditto that. I think it's really important that we do give priority to our local students here in the Coachella Valley. We do serve them, and I think bringing that in this program is great. So, wonderful.
Trustee Hill, I'd just like to commend Dean Jaramillo and his staff for working to make this happen. I know as we are looking at concurrent enrollment at all of our feeder institutions, we're looking at ways to provide more opportunities like this. And I know under his leadership and other deans' leadership that we'll continue to try to reach out more to the feeder schools.
Dr. Kinnaman, on a strictly selfish note here, I think that we need to remember that our feeder schools include not just those that do brick and mortar schools, but those like my Carly that do virtual schools. They're equally accredited by the proper institutions, but easily forgotten because out of sight, out of mind, except you see her a lot.
I do see her a lot. She's always a joy to see, but duly noted. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank John Jaramillo for all the work he's done. I know a few years ago we started really looking at this, and particularly most high schools have a school to career program they're very proud of, and that their emphasis is there. I know we're teaming up with them, and I appreciate it, John.
Thank you.
I like to second everything that was said, and also that this seamless transition is wonderful. I know we've talked about this in many areas, and it will shorten a student's time here. It gets them career-trained, job-ready, employed, and that's one part of our mission for the communities that we serve.
If I might add one thing, I'm very glad that we're doing something with Cathedral City High School, because this, I think, is one of the schools that we sometimes tend to overlook, or one of the areas of the valley we tend to overlook.
They have some very strong programs there in school and career.
Are we already connected with the programs that are going into the new high school, I understand, is that correct?
Absolutely. A lot of meetings already.
Rancho Mirage High School. That's wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion?
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, student trustee Campbell?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. Okay, moving on to a discussion item. Unless there's any objection, we don't really have to motion this, so we can discuss this. I put this on the agenda. Is there any objection to discussing this today briefly? This is one of those areas that came up in our training up in Sacramento for the new chairs, and they felt very strongly that all boards needed to review their board ethics and standards of practices and the, what's the word I'm looking for, the enforcement of those, the policy and the procedures. And having looked at ours and having gotten a few from other colleges, we seem to be fairly okay with regard to the actual policy, but we seem to be weak in the area of implementing that policy. How do we, what is our procedure for implementing that policy? And what I would like to suggest, so that we perhaps can move this along, is that we have a subcommittee of the board. I would like to be on that. And
I also would love to be that on it,
well,
Michael.
we can't have three of us, so now we're in trouble.
I would definitely love to be part of that, serving on other bylaws committees that I serve. I think it's very urgent that I could learn from that a lot.
I think it's important we keep Trustee Sanchez as busy as possible.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to serve on it because I'm going to be the vice chair, but let's figure out a way how you can work with as a committee and then work also with Trustee Sanchez. Because I think her input would be valuable.
If everyone's comfortable with that, if you would let me work out a method that we can come up with, so we can all work on this, so that we aren't
We'll just be
violating the
careful
Brown
that
Act.
we don't talk about it. Right.
I have some samples, and it's interesting that Hartnell is the one that has a wonderful process in place. Their process is very detailed, and the training that I attended, they felt that we needed to have a process that was much more structured, so that we aren't caught in a situation where we have to implement a disciplinary action without having a plan to do it. And that is critical. We have disciplinary actions for all other aspects of the college. We don't have a real effective one for our own operation. So if the will of the board, I will establish a way we can work on this without violating the Brown Act and bring back something to you, if not next month, perhaps in April. I think the next few weeks I'm out of town a great deal.
Could you share some of the information that you
Yes.
have? Because it did say on the discussion paper here that there were samples, and I didn't know anything to compare.
We didn't.
I would love to
Leanne
get
didn't
some.
do
What a
them.
great idea.
We will get you the samples, okay? I'll have, Leanne has them, I will get them for you, they'll be in your mailbox. Take a look at them, especially focus on the Hartnell process. I think they tend to really have nailed it. Again, I think what we have in the policy portion is what this pretty much is standard across the state. They just state it in different ways. It's the implementation of that, how you address an issue that would come out of that policy where we are tending to be a little weak. Okay?
Mr. Chair, I would just hope that when we look at it, you look at it from all sides. In some cases, if we have a policy or we ask to have something done and it's not done, we should have a process that we go through whoever to handle whoever was supposed to have done it. You know, I mean, I don't see anything there.
That would be on.
I think that's something you're saying is task and responsibility, assigned task and responsibilities.
Yeah.
That would
Thank
be
you.
under a different policy. This is only the board's ethics policy.
What I'm saying is there should be ethics throughout the whole institution.
I second that, John.
I think,
Let's,
and I think part of what we're doing here by establishing and not establishing, but modifying, updating our own is a good model for the other aspects of the college.
Right, and I think it's important, sometimes having a policy helps one. It helps you have structure for knowing what you should do and shouldn't do. And it's important that we come up with a policy that, where we have an opportunity to say to a fellow trustee, you know, you did this with the best intentions, but this is how it looks. Okay, and so they can say, whoa, I didn't ever see it that way, and step back. Or if it moves on, then we have the opportunity to go a step further. Because sometimes you do something you don't know.
I agree with Becky, but I would also add that I think we also need to look at our, the college itself to have some ethics, something like this, not only as a board, as the leaders. I think the leaders of our students and our faculty staff, along with our CEO and administrators, have some type of administrative procedures and policies also.
But I believe the faculty does.
They have the code of ethics. Oh, wonderful.
Right, yes.
And I believe you've reviewed that recently, right, Ms. Sorrell? Was it last year we reviewed that? And we've approved a revision to the faculty code of ethics.
I have another question. Having just gone to the first College Planning Council, in light of what's going on, that we have to have a lot of the policies, or maybe Dr. Kimmon can answer me this question, we also need to highlight a lot of the policies throughout the whole college, not only our board, but also, do you agree with me that?
Yes, actually, that's the process we go through with our shared governance process.
Thank you.
With the first reading, second reading, and then coming to the board with those procedures for vetting.
Okay.
So although we're putting together something for ourselves, it'll make us a good role model. But I think that our different constituencies probably have things in place, and a lot of that would be
Through agreements,
with
the
your
union
agreements with
contract.
the union contracts and stuff, I would think. All right?
So it's probably somewhere all together, hopefully, so.
And I think just the board setting a good role model is important, and others can, I mean, that's part of our responsibility, and you'll see that in the handout that we distributed. We are, it's a good example in many areas, and this is a good first step.
That means you have to quit picking on them.
But it wouldn't be any fun anymore.
We already have 3 ladies on this board, so don't go for 4.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll work out a process, and we will get back to you with something in the next month or 2, okay? All right, we are up for items for discussion. We did that one. Suggestions for future agendas. Let us start with Trustee Marvin.
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to follow up. When I was talking about getting college credit from higher institutions, that was basically online education. And I don't really know where we are there. We might want to have Mr. Phillips come in and tell us. I can see here it says allowing students to get credit for the massive online courses could help it make it easier to earn a college degree, which is talking about student success. And the person who wrote this article that they quote in here is from Berkeley. So they are obviously having meetings right now on how they can work with us maybe, and hopefully we can get up front with it. Another thing I was concerned about, or would like to have for the agenda, would be, I don't know, I was there when we first started it, but radio KCOD, I don't know where we are. I don't know how, I know this, we couldn't go very far, or we didn't have the antenna and the power to do it. I don't really know what we're doing there. It would be nice to have just a little report I have no other agenda there except to know what's going on. And I'm sure we've made some progress since we opened. The third thing would be, and we kind of talked about this last time, and I know Trustee Sanchez helped bring it up. We were talking about how important our students and our faculty and our staff at this college are, and we're concerned about their safety.
Yes.
And we had a little report kind of from the head of security. I would like that we go a little further though, and maybe get a comprehensive report from Ray as to our options and costs. I'm not asking that we have an army right now, but I think that we should be concerned and maybe be ahead of the curve about security on this campus. We don't have the sheriff's office across the street anymore, so they could run right over here. I'm talking about being able to have some of our security carried, if you know where I'm coming from. Maybe even just a startup that we could do early to get ahead of the curve and take the offensive here. That might mean just that the head of security can carry, and maybe a day guard here and a night guard here, and a guard at East Valley. You don't have to go whole hog, and maybe we can take a look at the cost. You know, cost is obviously something we got to take a look at, but I think you could go beyond what is reasonable in some cases. We could certainly have a starter kit going fairly soon, I think. So I would just like to ask that maybe we look a little further into this. I know everybody is for safety on this campus, and I would like to see that all the people that come to here to get educated and to teach feel comfortable at being here. So those are my...
I'd like to support, I know I'm on a turn here, but I'm the MOPS, because I know Gary Bergstrom sent us an article about those. I've read articles in the New York Times. I think it's something that seems to be extremely out there, and we need to be, again, as you said, ahead of the curve. And I did talk with Ray after our presentation in regard to our security last time, and he said that the cost of perhaps looking at some people carrying weapons is not that great. So I think I would like to support what John is saying.
We don't know what some of the rules and regulations might be. Maybe if one carries, they all have to carry. I don't know. And I certainly don't want to go overboard where we have some security to work on this campus right now that carry in other jobs that they have. And they know the students here. So maybe it's not that hard to get it started. To me, it's important that we try to use the ones that we trust right now, that know our students, that know which ones they should be watching for, that deal with them on a daily basis and have done a good job. I think they're extremely important to us, and if we could use them in this manner, I think it would be good instead of bringing in from outside or something at this time. And it's something maybe we could work piece by piece and build up as we go along. But I'm concerned too that we also have security in that kind of way, maybe at the East Valley campus. And of course, when we go to the West Valley, we would have it there too. It's something we can do without maybe paying a ton of money to get started.
This may be a dumb question, but isn't there something here at the College of the Desert? I don't remember at the college, my first college planning council, they mentioned about there's a group already here that the Bateman.
It's the Behavioral Assessment Intervention Team, yes.
And they, one of the members spoke to me and they said, we would love to kind of work with that issue as well because and set up something on that. So
that committee has been put together. Mr. Chair. I'd just like to remind the board that this is not a discussion option, it's ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you like being here?
So we can, when we get this on the agenda, we can then discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Trustee Stefan?
Yeah, I've got several things. One thing that I was really keeping track of this last month was there were a lot of audio conferences and webinars and things that I wanted to attend because it was new regulations and new rules and new things that were coming down the pipeline, but they were on the same time as I had to teach. So again, I couldn't attend them. I don't know why they can't put them on at various times. But anyhow, A lot of them were in regards to HR. So one was disciplining or terminating a workers' comp complainant. How the new federal health care law encourages employee wellness programs. What HR must know about independent contractors and interns. And tracking bullying, harassment, discrimination in the workplace. So I guess what I'm looking for is an in-depth report maybe from HR on all the new things that are coming out and things that we might be doing in these various areas, if they could fill us in, if the board is interested. Another thing was our HSI grant. We were supposed to make application and I didn't bring it up. I forgot about that. And just an update on where we stand with our grants, particularly that one. Another thing was, I forgot to mention in my report that I attended the ROP open house, but it brought up another problem that we have with the high schools and the ROP is the overlapping of what we do in the community, the academic overlap. With all the budget restraints, I think we need to look at what ROP is doing, what we're doing, how it's different, so that we're not doing duplicating. And also our high school articulation, how we're bringing that in and we're expanding what they do, not duplicating, and also adult continuation high school. So those are my ideas.
Mr. Chair, I know we're going to be meeting with our 2+2 again with the high school districts. And hopefully we're going to be making a little more progress there. We've been meeting for quite a few years and it seems like we're always starting over again or having, agreeing on something but nothing happens. So hopefully we're going to be making some progress there too.
Do you want to report on that sometime? Because we don't attend all of them, so you're asking for a future agenda item that we report on. Okay, thank you. Trustee Campbell, student trustee Campbell?
Family.
Okay, trustee Sanchez Fulton?
Well, I also have several. As I forgot to mention during the presentation of the transportation issue, based on some needs assessment that I believe the College of the Desert had, the reason why a lot of our students drop out is the transportation issue. And I know we've had here some members that have worked diligently for several years, several years on this. And I would love to see, and I know Becky, I think and a lot of people, to have a subcommittee set up, if the board would agree, hitting that issue on transportation and moving forward on that issue. So, any comments, Becky?
I think it would be good if we approached it, if we look for a way that we can approach it. So perhaps that would be our discussion. I can represent the East Valley's interest and you the West, so perhaps we could have an item in the future that helped us figure how to put together a subcommittee.
Our students are
Carlos is telling me that.
Yeah, I just want to remind the board that you're just requesting topics. There should be no editorialization or any kind of discussion or any kind of coming to an agreement. That would be out of line. So just as a reminder.
So a future discussion item would be a transportation subcommittee.
Correct.
And also one caveat on that, a student participation element on that. Thank you.
We can make that decision at that time with its agenda item. Okay. Trustee Broughton?
I would like to bring back about in June a follow-up on our athletics report, of the changes that we've made to comply. And I think we need to, so I'm putting it as a future agenda.
That's it? Okay. Other than the ones that I've had for a few months, which is that ongoing one of looking at our academic calendar and our 6-week winter break thing, at some point in the future, that's all I'd like to have a report on. And no urgency on that, but just just something that we need to examine. Anything else? Okay, we are at 10 to 12. We are now into board comments. So we have, we must recess at 12 into closed session. So for the board comments, we'll start with Andrew, student trustee Campbell this time.
One comment that I have is basically we're having the March and March event that's going to be on March 4th. So any of the adjunct and faculty, basically teachers and professors, if they can be mindful to allow their students to probably please attend, they can. That's one comment I have.
Thank you. Trustee Sanchez, Golden.
Pass.
Okay. Trustee Broughton.
Yes, I have recently learned that our foundation acts, shall I say, as a guardian or as a pass-through for the scholarships that are given to our students from various community organizations. There was a small problem with the Dollars for Scholars Magic Carpet Scholarship, which not in the student getting it or in the way it was passed through, but just one of those little clerical bumps. So I'd like to thank the foundation for clearing that up, but my big thank goes out to them for actually shepherding that money from those generous people in our community to the appropriate students. Thank you very much.
Trustee Warren.
Just a comment, it doesn't get a lot of publicity sometimes, but there was some in the paper this past week. We had a softball tournament here that was for breast cancer. And 2 of the local high school softball coaches played here, and both of them now have breast cancer. So their girls were here during our tournament. COD wore pink uniforms and pink socks, and one of the schools that came down here I know was San Diego City. They had their black uniforms with pink numerals on them, and they raised a lot of money, so it can go to La Quinta for Dee Dee Cox. That last name, now she has a different last name, but I remember Dee Dee Cox, so there's not too many Dee Dees around. And it was just nice to see the community get behind that. And I know this, that a few months ago, we had a local transportation company donate transportation to go to the food bank. And we had a whole busload of athletes go over there and work. And just for you to know that our softball girls in community service, some of them are still going back there on their own. So there are little things we don't know sometimes that I think are neat, and our students are getting involved in the community and doing good things for us.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Stefan.
I just want to make one comment I forgot to mention earlier. I had brought chocolate hearts for those people that presented. Please take your chocolate hearts home. I have lots of chocolate in them. I love chocolate, but I don't have any stock in it though. So please take your chocolate.
And I apologize.
Happy Valentine's
I
Day.
forgot to mention it when they came up. I apologize for that. My comment is just I'm a little concerned about I'm maybe confused more than concerned. I thought scholarships went through the financial aid office.
I think that some of the community scholarships have to be kind of formalized before they go to financial.
Okay. Is that something that we need to be updated on at some point? This is a comment. Just as I know.
No, and I think in this case it's the being in touch with. Financial aid gets the money, but someone needs to be in touch with the donors, and the foundation does the be in touch with. The warm and fuzzy. Otherwise, Wade would have to write a lot of letters. But from the when he does the money out and financial aid, poor Adrian be writing a lot of letters. It says, "Oh yes, we got your money." And
This is one of the things I think we can discuss when we meet with the foundation board. In some cases, they don't really know how things work
But in this case,
on the campus side.
In this case, it's just a saying thank you. Somebody needs to say thank you.
We can provide you with
an overview of how the scholarships are administered, but basically it's a partnership between the foundation receiving the money and the financial aid office distributing the money.
Thank you. That's all I have for comments, and before there's not much time, Mr. President, for the administrative reports. Do you want to move into closed session and then come back at what time are we back? 1:30? 1:30?
Yes,
1:30?
He says 1:30.
Okay, then we will be back at 1:30 for the administrative report and our presentations at that time. And we're going to move into closed session. Thank you. 4 out of the 5 of us, and we know we have a very tight timeline. So we will begin with Dr. Kinnaman. You're in charge, sir.
Well, thank you, Trustee O'Neill. If we could begin with our quarterly budget update. I see we've got Wade here prepared to present.
I am. If you didn't have a copy with you, I did place a hard copy on your desk, and for the public, they're on the back table.
So we can tear?
You can tear.
Oh, thank you.
No.
I love this.
Some might say that's the most exciting part of my report, but I have to say that's not.
We would never do that, Wade.
Okay.
You are finished, right?
Right. Okay, so earlier this morning we approved the 311Q for the second quarter that was sent to the Chancellor's office. This report is additional information that backs up the 311Q and gives the board and the college community an idea of where we're at December 31st, the end of the second quarter. And again, you've ripped your sheets apart. The first sheet supplements the second sheet, and we have put the second sheet up on the board. And we'll just kind of go through the routine that we have done in the past, where we follow the letters across the bottom and up the side. Now, this is the second quarter, so the information that I reported for A, B, and C, which pertains to last year, is still the same. Obviously, those numbers will not change as we compare them throughout the year. However, D can change because the budget is a living document and numbers may change from time to time as directors or deans transfer money from one source to another. Those transfers are approved under the transfer process, like we did earlier today as well. So in this case, the 11-12 budget was $38,136,000. We ended last year at $36,579,000, which gave us a difference of $1,556,000. The budget, as we approved earlier in September, is $35,784,075. And by the way, even though there are transfers, the budget in total still remains the same. It's just which line item that it might appear on. As of December 31st, 2012, we had spent $18,592,829. That is at the halfway mark, just slightly less than 2% ahead of where we anticipated we would be. So we're holding the line pretty good. We're a little more than half of the expenditures at half of the year, but less than 2%. Our anticipated savings when we did the budget was going to be $2,352,048, which is the difference between the budget from last year and the budget from this year. If we go to, while we're on this page, I'll just mention that we're still anticipating under K that we'll have savings in salaries of $1,981,000, of supplies of $6,997, contracts $260,264, and capital outlay of about $103,378. That's the benchmarks that we're trying to keep to. If we go to the next 2 pages, this reflects how our spending is to date compared to how it was to date a year ago. So under the first, you'll see that, and these numbers, by the way, all relate back to the first page that we talked about. But currently, salaries and benefits, we have savings halfway through the year of $475,780, about a 3% decrease over the previous year. Supplies and materials up about 9%, and that is probably most likely just a timing issue. Again, because we have spent so little on supplies the last couple of years that people have went through everything that they had in the cupboards, and so they're spending more quickly. Contracts and services have increased about 4%, or about $100,000. Remember, we did not budget for inflation when we budgeted our contracts, and so that has part of it to do with. I'm sorry, Becky?
The government says there's no inflation.
Right. We do have certain professional contracts at this point where we've spent money quicker than we did last year, and so this may actually be recaptured as we go through the next 2 quarters. But right now, we're up about $100,000. Capital outlay is 61%, which sounds like a huge percentage, but we're really only talking $26,000, less than what we had spent this time last year. And the biggest reason for that is most of that allocation hasn't actually been given out yet. So M&O and the IS department are 2 of the larger recipients of capital outlay, and they will spend those in the last 2 quarters of the year more often than they spend in the front 2 quarters of the year. So it's just a timing issue. But right now, we are on target. We are doing great, and we hope to continue to keep the costs in place. Specific questions that I could answer?
Just to point out that you might see an 8% increase in supplies and materials, but it wasn't a big number to start with.
It's a very small number for the entire general fund of the college. And again, what we're talking about here today in the update is only the general fund. So this is the operations of the college. But you're right, John, the number is a very small number. Part of the reason that it's a very small number is if some of you will remember 4 years ago, we moved all instructional supplies over to the restricted lottery dollars. Now, in the budget that we'll do for next year, those will all come back into the general fund because we've expended all those monies in the restricted lottery. And you'll see the supply number go up. It'll about double from what it was this year. We spend about $249,000 on instructional supplies right now.
Those are reserve monies that we had.
We had built up reserves in the restricted lottery, and we used that to pay for Blackboard and for instructional supplies, because that qualifies under the expenditure guidelines of restricted lottery dollars.
Apparently, we will be unable to keep a reserve there now. We'll be spending as it comes in.
Yes, unfortunately, now with the costs that we have under the contracts of Blackboard, there will be a little left over, but not enough to support the instructional supplies anymore. 4 years ago, there was $1 million in that account. But we're now down to just a couple $100,000. So it's going to be a push to even cover some of the expenses we have there. And unfortunately, lottery is very hard to budget for because you don't know how it's going to fluctuate during the year. Interestingly enough, as the economy was going down, lottery was going up. You would have thought it would have been the other way, but it wasn't.
When we do have a report about online classes, I think we need to incorporate the overhead involved in that compared to a sometimes forget there's a lot of overhead for online classes. We assume it's free because it's wireless.
Right. Well, the other thing that I would mention, as again, just as a reminder, I've said this before, even though it's instructional supplies, supplies that are used in the classroom, it does not go on the side of the 50% for faculty, the 50% rule. So it's on the other side, which is an administrative expense. So bringing $249,000 more into the general fund will have to make up for that somehow to keep ourselves balanced, because we're pretty much at 50% the last couple of years at the end of the year. So that's just an additional expense that we have to take into consideration. This is only faculty salaries teaching in class that counts. So,
as I understood it, some of this budget that we set, we knew some areas that were like a position that had retired, we didn't replace it. We knew those things were there.
correct.
So in the future, it's going to be even tougher to find money.
That's correct. We actually benefited the last 2 years over a great deal by several faculty, full-time faculty retiring, and several full-time
It wasn't
administrators
like it
retiring.
was money that was misspent, it was money that wasn't being spent.
That's correct. That's correct. And we continue to capture some of those salaries, obviously, for people's positions that haven't been refilled. And so even though they will be refilled in the current year, that's helping us with our budget as we go.
Have we got anything from Prop 30 yet? Or that comes later, if we get it?
I don't think they've actually figured out how that's going to work right yet. I think they were surprised it passed too. But it's a good thing that it did pass, and they are talking about how that money is going to be spent, and how it obviously affects the deferrals first. And so I actually have not received yet from the Chancellor's office how our new deferrals will look after the Prop 30 money is applied.
Wait, I have another question regarding the adult basic ed, the new laws that have been passed. Are you up to date on that?
No, but I would depend on the deans to tell me where that issue lies.
Okay.
Anything else for Wade before we?
It was interesting.
See, thank you, Bonnie.
No.
Thank you, Wade, for bringing this out.
Wasting staples.
I'm waiting.
Hard.
Okay, thank you.
You're aware of that.
Thank you.
Steve, would you like to do the introductions? Thank you.
Good afternoon. I know Trustee O'Neill and Trustee Broughton are sitting on the committee for this Central Campus redevelopment project, but I wanted to spend just a second and go over about a year's worth of history in 30 seconds for why we are where we are. And that's that this is a project that originally started as developing a brand new library learning resource center in the center of the campus at the location of where the existing Hill building is. And we had put in a request to the state for funding and were approved for funding, although for the last almost 5 years now, there has been no funding to actually support the project. So it continued to bump down the road, and perhaps in 14 there will be a bond, and perhaps in 16, but we determined a year ago that we couldn't wait for the state to fund this project. So about a year ago in the summer, we did a small contract, kind of an effort to measure all the space we have in the existing multi-agency library where the library programs are. And in this project we're also tutoring academic skills and several related kind of labs and such. So we determined, it was determined using an independent library consultant that the program would fit into the existing building plus a little space. So the question became, where's the extra little space? And we started out thinking that might be in liberal arts, and then passing through an unfortunate period of time where fortunately we came out of it. We intended at one point to raise the administration building and build new administration building, new library, and the old registration building would be gone. So that's the history of it. Fortunately, we came to our senses somehow, and it turned out to be sort of a data-driven thing. When you start looking at where's the space and what are the buildings and what's being designed, and to stop at that point and just really look at what's the plan, it worked out that those two spaces, the existing Hill building and the old registration building, which was originally the student center, student services student center, are of the size that the library and related programs will fit. And the existing administration building and the liberal arts building are of the size where all of the administrative programs will fit. So as the architects will explain, they'll show you a bit about what's going in there. But that sort of brought us up to now able to fit the program in, use the matching funds that we were going to use in our bond program to bow out of the state fund. So we gave up that possibility, and we were able to use some contingencies that had come forward from savings on previous projects, the existing committed funds, and now so there's a project that does involve those 4 buildings to be done at once, and I'll leave that to the architects to present on that. So then just a quick note about process. We go through, in design, there's several steps. It starts with program, which is actually looking at all the people and all the functions that happen. Put that on paper, look at how those adjacencies and relationships need to work. It moves on to schematic, which starts to really see how the building will look and relate, and in some cases a point where you actually the space is defining what the building will look like. In this case, it's buildings are what they are, but we do need to make some changes that they'll explain. And at this point, schematic is when we bring the project up through user group sign-off, cabinet sign-off, and then we bring it to the board for information and feedback. The next step is design development, so after that effort has happened, we'll go through the same process. Make sure that the user group all agree that it's the right project. The cabinet sees that and has input and sign-off, and we bring that back to the board for information and feedback at that point. So from then on, it's all about making construction documents and going through the process and getting to building it. So with us today are from LPA. I think Silka is going to do the presentation, Silka Frank, but there's also Steve Flanagan and Wendy Robeson, and all are deeply involved in the project. So take it away.
Well, good afternoon, and I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's really great. And I think first off, I really wanted to thank you all for inviting us back here. I just heard the shovel went into the ground for athletics, and the gym is going up, and so I really appreciate having the opportunity again to be on your campus and hopefully making a difference for all the students that go here. And a lot of people have been so kind to attend all the user group meetings, so I think we have been building a lot of consensus in the last few months, so I feel like really good at this presentation today to show you what we've been really just doing for the last few months. As most of you probably know, but just to review for you who maybe not, we're renovating 4 buildings. So the old liberal arts we're calling Building A, just to confuse people and not give it a name yet. We're still waiting for those. Building B, the old administration building, and then Building C, our student center, a building that was slated to come down, but we're trying to keep that alive, and I think it's going to be a great space. And then the Hill building, and then we actually get to look at the fountain and the plaza and tie all those buildings together that way. We've been working for a while, and programming took us a while because a lot of programs were coming in and out, and so until we settled that in November, we went straight into schematic design and got the user groups to sign off last month at the end of the month, and now we're moving forward by the end of this month with the next DD meeting. So I invite you all to come if you want to give us your input, but at this point we're kind of at the end of schematic design. And we're trying to really stay on track. construction is out pretty far for 2014 to 2016. That seems like pretty far out, so we're trying to keep on track to get to that goal. And then our lovely budget, as always, keeps us honest. So we have that kind of broken down by building. And so far, what we're doing, it seems like we're staying on track. We're trying to be very good about, in each phase, to have cost estimates done. So right now, we're actually having these out to 2 different cost estimators, one hired by the district and one hired by us, to make sure we're on track with the budget. And so then here we get into the fun parts. Building A, after we kind of settled all the programming, the Office of Business Affairs is going in there, Office of Academic Affairs, the Human Resources and Office of Fiscal Affairs go in Building A. And then Building B has the Office of the President, Foundation Office, the Boardroom, and the Public Information Office. And we'll go through in a little bit more detail on these plans. And then Building C is an extension of the large library. It'll be a reading room, and the Friends of the Library will be going in there. And then Building D, our 3-story hill building, will be all renovated as part of this also. And then obviously the plaza is really something that's very important to everybody, to preserve the fountain and really understand how that plaza can be utilized. We've heard a lot of comments that right now it's just too barren. The distance between the building and the fountain is too large. So our landscape architect is starting to look at that, and I'll have some images of things that we've talked about and kind of developed at this point. Yeah.
So the hill building is changing.
It is actually just on the interior. There's a small portion of the exterior that we're looking to modify, but otherwise it's staying exactly the way it is.
But I mean, the hill building now is the one down at the bottom, correct?
No, actually the one in the middle right there.
Okay, so it's still, what is the hill building will still be the hill building?
Yes, it will be. And it will be
the library.
Yes, yes. And I think the wonderful thing about looking at all these buildings all together is that we can have the hill building be the center of the campus, and really kind of draw students back in to the center of campus and revitalize that part.
So which one we're looking up there is Building C?
This one right down here. That is the little mini-me of the hill building.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
That is not the hill building, though.
No.
It won't be called the hill building.
No, no, no.
Thank
And so then the plaza will create kind of a formal transition into the buildings. And we've talked to the architect that's doing the Monterey entrance modernization of the landscape and the approach to the campus. And so then the plaza will be the transition to that, and staying a little bit more formal and giving entry to all those buildings, kind of transitioning people into the buildings. And then we're also looking at the little courtyard that's in between the hill building and Building C, to allow that to be an outdoor place between the 2 library buildings. Building A, the floor plan. So we have the Office of Academic Affairs in yellow. There's a few offices on the left bottom. And then Office of Fiscal Affairs, the Human Resource, and the Business Affairs. They kind of ring around the perimeter, and then as you can see in the center are all kind of the shared functions. There's conference rooms, restrooms, lounges, and storage file rooms that all kind of make up the center of these buildings. On the exterior, not too much is really changing, except that we're opening up the lobby spaces to really emphasize the entrance. I think when you're coming into this campus right now, the buildings are really kind of solid, and so we're trying to draw new visitors into these buildings by opening up the facade on this end right here to really create kind of a lobby space, and then also allowing people to get through the building and kind of see through the building to the other courtyard.
Question. What's the difference between Office of Fiscal Affairs and Office of Business Affairs?
They're just 2 different departments within the district.
Guess then the question would go to the President. Difference between fiscal and business.
Fiscal is our vice Well, business affairs is the vice president, and fiscal would be one of those departments that answers to business affairs, like M&O and security. Okay. So we're just the different part of the business affairs section.
Thank you.
What's that green? The green actually is offices that are for growth. We have actually figured out that there's a little bit extra space, and we're just making room for growth in the future. And then looking at the elevation on the exterior, we're really not changing the building much, except for, like I said, on the entry area, we're trying to open that up with glass a little bit more. And what you see beyond in red is really just indicating that there would be something in the lobby space as you're walking into the lobby that will be signaling that as an entry. And that's something that we will develop a little bit more in design development, something that could be a display case that's lit up, something that might be a little bit more of a draw to allow people to see from afar where they need to go.
Something bringing in the arts would be a great idea for students. I think that with giving that avenue of displaying our students' artwork would be a great opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm. And also we've talked about maybe displaying some of the donors there, board members, things of importance, maybe some events, or as you're saying, the art. Then building B has a similar setup where the lobby space is now to the north, facing the courtyard up in here. Again, there's 3 kind of grand doors leading you into this lobby space and then through the hallway. So on the left here is the boardroom complex with a separate conference room right here. There's storage, 2 different types of storage spaces for furniture to be in, and to kind of give the flexibility to the boardroom. And actually, if you compare it to this room, it's a little bit larger than this room. And kind of what's different about this, it will have this raised dais in this kind of smaller area over here for the board members to be kind of up about 12 inches from the floor.
So that could be used for lecture?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we've actually figured out that even if you were to have like an event in the evening and bring in some round tables, you could still seat about like 90 to 120 people in that kind of setting. So it's a flexible area.
I have a question. Are these designs set for the 21st century with technology, so we are going to be having media? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're working on that right now with the AV consultant, so that will be a part of the process in the design development.
Thank you.
And the desire was to actually make this space something that could be used by the community. And so what happens actually, the boardroom and the dais are separated by a curtain and kind of a gate that can come down and be locked up, so they're secured behind there. But you don't have that as part of the room when you're renting it out, and it can be used by the community without really kind of getting into all the things that are in the dais. And then on the right top is the president's office with public information office. To the left of that, and then the bottom is the foundation office with, again, all the kind of shared spaces, the restrooms, all the core elements kind of sitting in the center of the building.
So what happens to the old foundation office? The old foundation building?
We can go back.
Can you go back? One of the trustees is that sure?
That hasn't been decided.
That hasn't been decided. It's protected as a historic building.
That's why it hasn't been decided.
No, thanks.
Over, I can't read it, it's too tiny.
Okay.
See the boardroom, it's got storage and then it's got a little room.
This one right here?
Yeah.
This one is kind of the room like you have behind the screen. You know, you have that big rack in there for all the AV equipment, and actually some of this stuff will go in there, so we don't have that out in the room.
Okay.
And then again, on the exterior, the building won't change much, and we're trying to kind of bookend the 2 buildings for the plaza to really create that entry into the lobby space. So this is something, again, where we can put some display that you can see from afar that could be lit up. And then really the other thing that we're doing.
You want to mention the pop-up?
Yes. Yeah, and then we,
They
do it, yeah.
They're maybe looking like, how's that roof expand?
Yeah. So actually, that's really good that, maybe they won't notice. But what we're doing above the main space of the boardroom, we'd like to pop the roof up because the space is quite grand and a ceiling at 10 feet just would not be enough. So we're trying to match the little pop-ups that we already have in the existing buildings on the south of that, in the dining hall, in Building C, and in the Hill. So we kind of repeat that, allowing that boardroom to have kind of that grand space feel. Here you can see a little bit in the section how that helps the space, some relief with that taller ceiling. And then the dais here in the front being kind of in this more little intimate space. And here's a kind of a preview of the boardroom, what it could look like. And what we've talked about is actually with all the user groups that we would like to take the opportunity at this point to really unify the campus, even with the finishes. And so all the more kind of grand spaces like the boardroom and the reading room, some areas in the library would actually get a little bit more higher finish. So these are wood walls and wood ceilings. They might not be the real wood, but we're making sure that they're impact resistant and that they can't be damaged, but they still give that feel of enriched material. So for now, that's kind of the cohesive material between all buildings.
As I sit here trying to escape the sun.
And yes, motorized, hopefully. Yes. So hopefully with the push of the button, we will have someone make sure that we don't get blinded.
Okay.
And then Building C.
I have one concern
Oh, yeah.
for handicap ADA compliance. I'm sure they're all ADA compliance for our.
Correct, yeah.
Make sure.
And the dais, actually behind the dais, will have a little ramp that takes you up to the kind of elevated area.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then in this reading room, the building really was slated to be torn down, and it does have a lot of challenges structurally, so I think a lot of the money that's allocated for it will go in kind of saving the building itself. So what we decided to do to leave the space really open, and really just kind of restore the building as it was and let that be a very flexible space again, but also kind of this grand reading room with some really nice finishes that will help make that kind of more the luxurious part of the library. On the exterior, we will do exactly the same thing that was done like on the business building, really just sandblast the columns and fix up the concrete panels that fill in between that.
As you know, that building was extremely hot.
Yes.
With the windows up there and
Yeah, we'll definitely put those automated roller shades in this one too. But I think the nice thing about this is it's almost like a pavilion, right? That you can kind of feel like you're outside even though you're in the desert. So I think it gives you a different feel than a lot of these other buildings, and I think we should preserve that. So here's kind of a view of what that reading room could look like, again, with the enriched material on the wall, something that gives you the flexibility of moving furniture around on the floor without really damaging anything, but still having that enriched feel with the ceiling and the walls being out of wood. And then moving on to the hill, starting out from, we're calling it the lower floor because right now it is definitely kind of a basement, but we've had a lot of discussion on how to not make it that anymore. And so actually this whole area right there will be open. So we can take all the walls out and really just leave the column standing and have different kind of functions that flow into each other. And so between the furniture usage and also between giving that kind of flexibility in the open space, I think it'll really not feel quite as enclosed. And then one other thing that we've done is cut a hole right here in the floor, so actually from the top down you can see into the basement, which is something that I think is really difficult right now. When you get into the library, you don't really know where you're going, or you don't even know that the lower floor is there. So you get kind of a peek in there. It's a difficult thing to do, so we had to restrict it to a small area, but there'll be some daylight down there. At least there's a connection to the outdoors and a visual view knowing that you're there. So there's a little stair that will take you down right here, and this is the elevator that then will connect all 3 floors. And then as we go up, there's a bunch of different functions that kind of flow into each other. We have computer commons, different seating areas. There's a new huge bank of restrooms, something that you can't find when you're going into the library right now. And then also having these kind of blocked off walls, as you know, when you're in the library, you really can't quite see where all the circulation is happening. So one of the most important things that came out of the user groups were that we needed to see where all the circulation is and seeing how you get around this building. And so that's something that we really focused on. So one of the things that we will be doing as you're coming in from the west side, there's kind of a grand lobby with the reception desk and the circulation desk, and then it takes you up and down. So one stair is down into the basement and one stair is actually up. And as you can see in that picture, kind of in the far, there's like this grand stair that's almost like a bleacher that'll take you up onto the upper floor. Something that'll be easy to find, and actually it's quite nice if you can really kind of, as a student, hang out on that. That'll be almost like a social space that really interacts between the 2 floors. And then as you go down, there's that smaller stair that takes you down into that lower floor.
I have a question. Can you go back to that slide? A lot of times, I'm a big laptop user. I see in that seat, are they going to be little...
like power outlets?
Yes, because
Yes.
everyone's in this, okay, perfect. Because a lot of times you go into these spaces and you have
no power.
No power.
Yes.
Yeah, we're looking at a variety of strategies to be able to
Yeah.
provide power anywhere where you sit down,
Right.
basically. So there'll be hardwired computer tables that
Yes.
are owned by the college, and then the opportunity for people to just touch down where they
Thank you.
like.
And then kind of the other grand idea that we've talked about, we really wanted to make sure that this library was still a library, that it wasn't just a room full of computers, and we wanted to make sure that when you're in the library, you're also not wasting space with just having a ton of book stacks. So it's really kind of finding that balance, and we know books will never go away, but it's something that is not used as much. But people like the feel and look and smell of books, and just really like being in a library. So what we proposed, and it's something that I think all the library group people really enjoyed, was that we wanted to create that feeling of having books. So what we're doing right here is actually along these long kind of solid walls in the perimeter that block the stairs, we're putting book stacks full height on the wall, and then also up that grand stair. So it's not that you would have the regular book stacks to go to, but you would actually feel like the books are all around you in the whole library. And I brought some images, and this is kind of what we showed them so far as we're developing this idea, that obviously you can't put books up that high without a ladder, you know, but still you get that feeling of that there's bookshelves. And they were even joking, you know, maybe we should collect books from people that they're not using. Maybe we can put them up in there, and they're almost like storage up there, but it gives you the feel of being within the books in the library.
Or if people want to donate to the College of the Desert and want to add a book, you could do a revenue stream with that idea, kind of incorporating that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We also keep samples of the books that are required for classes.
So,
The students should be able to get to those and check them out when
Right,
they
they
need.
would be from what I understand, the lower part. The upper part, what we're truly circulating books, but they could be collections that are only checked out by certain groups, certain
So
user groups.
obviously, we're looking at what's going to go in the city-county library, so we don't duplicate ourselves.
Right. Oh, but I also asked, well, how would this compare to the number of volumes that we have now? Or the number of feet, as some librarians counted? And it's more space or the same? Usable space.
Usable space, it will be the same. You can take the books out of the existing library and put it in here. And then there'll be some additional space that is not usable at all times but for
Although
storage.
books will never go away, they will become more electronic, because I can see that blend in Carmen. I know she's already worn out one Kindle. She's working getting the new one tomorrow. And that doesn't change her love for books.
Yes, yes. And I think again here, we wanted to create a space that has that grand feeling. The warmth of the wood, I think, really complements some of the concrete that we have on the existing building, and it really gives you the feel like you're in a library.
Is that floor going to be finished concrete that isn't wood, or what is it going to be?
On the floor, we're thinking it should be carpet in most areas, not all areas, but some of the high traffic areas will have more of a concrete or like a resilient flooring. And we're working that out as we're going through DD, but we've kind of figured out the spaces that should have some softer carpet, and then some that would maybe have in the high traffic areas some more resilient flooring.
Have you thought, this is just a thought, in a lot of higher institutions, some words of inspiration for our students or something like that? Have you been thinking, is that been in the model of putting some nice some quotes or some inspirational for it?
We've talked about some areas where we could display things, just again, like what we were talking about in those lobby spaces that could actually be that. I have kind of a section cut through the library where we are at this point, and there's some kind of highlighted pieces, like this elevator. It could become a graphic element that could house some of those words, or we could even put it in the floor in some of these areas. So I think as we're going through design development, we'll talk about which of the finishes would really lend themselves to doing some of those things.
On the floor or on the walls. Thank you very much.
I'm going to mention about filling in the floor on this third floor.
Yes, as we're getting through to the exterior, one of the things that we discovered as we were going through the process and getting our structural engineer involved, that this building is pretty old and it is a heavy building all out of concrete. And so we had some extra space that we need in the library. So the upper floor that you see right now, the mezzanine, is actually going to be larger. So the hole that's in the center is actually going to be smaller. And that actually adds a lot of weight to the building. And to do kind of offset that, because seismically that creates a problem. And so a structural engineer explained to us, it is great if we can actually take some pieces off the building. And I'll show you what we were kind of proposing on the exterior to offset the weight that the floor infill will actually add to the building. So on the upper floor, I think I have that in the next slide here, you can see how this is now actually the opening in the floor from the mezzanine down, and that is where the skylight or the clerestory light sits above. And then all around, kind of in this yellow area, it is the kind of open space, a flexible space, and then in the perimeter of the upper floor are kind of the smaller spaces, the more enclosed spaces, the group study spaces, some of the tutoring spaces have some smaller rooms. So these are the functions that are more enclosed. But then looking at the, and again, furniture will give, I think, a lot of flexibility on this floor also, because there's different types of tutoring programs that really has different needs. But then here's the elevation, and I think on this slide we can explain a little bit better what we're trying to do on the library, on the exterior. So here's building A. It won't really look any different. Building B will have the little pop-up, and then building C kind of in the background with the clerestory already existing. And so the hill is really something that everybody wants to preserve the look of it. But we do have that issue of the weight that we have to kind of take off. And one of the things also that the structural engineer told us is that the large fins that are right now outside on the hill building that are bolted in, the connections aren't safe. And so we really have to take those fins off the building and or reattach them in a safe way, which really doesn't make too much sense. Well, the other thing that he told us is that it would be great if we could take more weight off the building. And so the infill that's actually up on the upper second floor is concrete also, and so we can take these panels out and then fill them back in with something new. And we absolutely understand that we don't want to change the look of the hill. Nobody does. We also understand that we don't want it to look like a fortress anymore. A lot of people have told us that. And we would like to be able to take advantage of some of the views around the hill. There are some really great views to the north, the mountains, and then looking out onto the fountain would be really great. So what we're studying right now is how we can infill that area with something that is very appropriate, that will look the same as it does now. At least, you know, when you're a few feet away, it will not have a concrete fin back on there. But what we're planning on doing is infilling that with some glazing that will have some kind of fin in front of it. And we will bring that back when we come back for design development and show you some more details on that. And then we've brought some landscape concepts. Our landscape architect started talking to the user groups also, really understanding what the needs are for the plaza. So we understand we want to keep that clear. That is an important axial view to the hill, but we will never want to obstruct that. We've showed some images to the user groups about what the fountain can do and the translation between the fountain and the buildings. There might be some planted areas in between that could look like something like this, or really kind of what this image shows. There's a lot of seat walls with trees and some flat areas, but also some planted areas, so it really breaks up that grand plaza a little bit more. So the two areas that we're developing in the landscape is the fountain area with the seat walls around it, and then the space in between building D and C. And I think that space has a lot of potential. We do need to add a ramp to get people up there, so there's a lot of opportunity actually to create some outdoor reading areas for students. We can have some Wi-Fi out there and really utilize that space on a day like today, which is the perfect day outside, so you could really utilize that space then.
During the summer?
Not so much. But there's times when you can't.
There'll be some shade.
Yeah, there's some tree canopy shade, so.
We've talked about when we redo the concrete that we could put, like you were saying, some words into the concrete even here, and take some of the dedication that's already in the plaza and use some of those names and put them either back into the concrete somewhere or, oh yeah.
I would just recommend, that would be a fantastic idea to put the, I'm very proud of wearing this pin like all board trustees. This pin right here, I think would be a great idea. That's our
Yeah, something like that. It's very easy to do when we're pouring new concrete, and I think we can really kind of enhance the plaza that way. And then we've talked about maybe there's even the opportunity for donors. There's some brick pieces or a certain kind of material that we can dedicate to people's needs.
Yeah, we are thinking about that. Since we last had our meeting, I've been talking to some donors and some maritime faculty. And they would very much like not to be on the concrete that we're walking on.
Yeah.
They like our idea of on the walls, inside or outside.
Okay.
They really want to be off the ground.
I don't blame them.
That's really important. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the opportunity again is that we have these lobby spaces now that have this kind of a grand wall, and we can work that into those and really have the flexibility to add in the future too. And then definitely some seat walls, and we're still developing what those could look like. We could have some fun with them and light them up, or they could be actually kind of a little accent of color. We definitely don't want to take over, but maybe there's some little hints where we can bring in some color and light them up at night. And creating a transition, we've talked to the architect from the Monterey entrance development, and we really want to create a nice transition into the plaza and how we then guide people into the two buildings adjacent to it. We'll need to do something around the fountain so people won't fall in. That's a requirement by the state. And so we're thinking cactus, maybe that'll keep them out. But we're thinking a combination of seat walls and planting, something that won't shed into the pool so we can really keep that nice and and clean. I call it a pool. I guess people used to use it for that purpose, the fountain. And so you don't have the debris or anything like that in the fountain anymore, to really preserve the look but not let people get too close. And then we would like to break up the scale between the buildings surrounding the plaza and the fountain to really kind of leave maybe the palm trees where they are if we can, and then add a lower level of tree that will create some shade for people to actually utilize the space in between the buildings and the fountain. And then there's some great opportunities in this little plaza. We've been thinking about if we're breaking out the concrete in the main plaza, how can we maybe reuse it and use it like a flagstone in that area. That's a really sustainable way, and it also still allows for the water to drain in between. Seat walls, again, for students to socialize outdoors. We will have to add a ramp and then some cover with trees, so you can maybe in some of the other months, not just today, be actually out there and enjoy the outdoors. So this is kind of the end of schematic design, and the plan is to come back to you in April with our development, our design development, and really show you some more of our finishes and some more detail on the exterior of the hill especially.
I have two more items. First of all, Sofa invited everybody to attend the next meeting, but we can't because we have 2 board members there, so
okay.
The rest of the board cannot be there.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. And the second thing is that I've also talked to some people related to the library in the past, and the concern is that the current library has a lot of names attached to various walls and sections and stuff. The question is has that been considered for transition into the new building, because there are a lot of donors who contribute a great deal of money to that building, and we need to consider that those names be transferred to a wall of recognition or something in the new library, the new old library.
Yes.
So those are 2 things I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from the trustees?
I think, I don't know, are your user groups open and accessible to the students? Have you, like, can they, we cannot because of our, but let's say other students want to attend this. You said February 28th, I see March 14th, and I see March 28th. Where is that meeting? You just put the dates, but you didn't put where you're meeting.
Right. We typically meet at the North Annex, but we'll have to go through and verify the student participation. A lot of times in the design process, we open it up for students to come and just observe. Yeah, but they don't really participate in that process. But yeah, we've had colleges where we've had students come and just observe, just to see how it happens. Okay. So we can talk about that once we can, and get you some dates appropriate, for sure.
Thank you.
You can also, if you want to get this kind of comprehensive book of our schematic design where we're at today onto your iPad, you can just go into that link, or I have a couple of copies too if you wanted some hard copies to take along.
Maybe we could have a hard copy in the president's office so that we could review it. If we want everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll just give it to you, Leanne. I have a bunch of them.
Oh, you
And some of the students would want them. Okay. Sounds good.
Any other questions, comments? I just have one. It's been a great pleasure working with LPA, and we hope to continue to do that. It's been very, very positive. All of us that serve on this committee and our relationship with you at the gymnasium that's going up shortly, it's been very, very positive for us. So thank you very much. We appreciate. And I need to comment that they've done this on an extremely crunched timeline. As you heard Steve mention earlier, we went through numerous iterations of what was going to happen with this space until we finally got our senses. And you've only been on the job 8 months.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
So this is a big crunch and wonderful. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Very respectful to the culture of that central development area, and That it is the center and the heart of the campus. We appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You
Thanks for all your
understand-
time.
You understand us, and that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, our next report is a report that Dean Isaac is going to present. It's our annual accountability reporting for community colleges, or our report.
Good afternoon, Chairman O'Neill, trustees, and President Kinnaman. This is the mandated annual accountability reporting for the community colleges. I'll start with a quick background. The ARC report, as you are probably aware, was established in 2004 as part of the Assembly Bill 1417. The first ARC was reported in 2007 and it's updated annually, and this is the sixth report. Basically highlights the system and college performance for policymakers, college officials, and elected board members such as yours and the general public. There are two benchmarks for this assessment, the peer group rates, and the peer groups are selected by a statistical process called cluster analysis. And there are 6 peer group colleges. And of course, we are compared to the state rates. There are 8 indicators, and I have used the same consistent format for all the 8 indicators. On the left-hand side, we have the 3 clustered groups, starting with 2003-4 all the way to 2008-9, and from 2004-5 to 9-10, 5-6 to 10-11. So those are the 3 clustered groups. And then I have a graphical interpretation right next to that. And then there's a table that shows a comparison of the 3 cluster areas, and then we compare our college to the peer group rate and then to the state rate. And on the right-hand side, we have the definition. So this is the same format I have used for all the 8 indicators. So the first indicator is the COD, student progress, and the achievement rate. And I'm not going to read the definition that's up there, but basically it's the percentage of all our first-time students who have showed an intent to complete and who have achieved any of the following 6 outcomes within the 6 years. And if you look at the cluster on the left-hand side, we are actually doing very well. We have improved, and compared to the peer group rate, we are doing better than the average. We are slightly below the state rate. And going on to the next indicator, which is the COD percent of students who earned at least 30 units. And it's defined as the first-time students who showed an interest in completing at least 30 units while they are anywhere in the California Community College system. Again, in the first cohort, we have 76%, and we did well in the second cluster group. And in the third one, we have slightly decreased, but definitely we are doing better than the average of the peer group rate. And again, we are doing better than the state average rate. The third one is the persistent rate, and this is a category we are doing extremely well. This is the percentage of first-time students who have at least a minimum of 6 earned units in fall term and who came back to us and enrolled in subsequent fall term anywhere in the California Community College system. And as you see, this is a category we are doing extremely well. And the next one is the successful course completion rate for credit vocational courses. This is the percentage of students who enrolled in credit vocational courses who retained to the end of the term or until the end of the class or course with a grade of A, B, C or credit pass. We have slightly gone down and we are below average in the peer group rate or the state rate. This we are kind of thinking it may be because we have the basic skills students who may be taking classes in the vocational courses and they are not completing it. The next one is the annual successful course completion rate for credit basic skill courses. These are the students who are enrolled in the credit basic skills courses who retain to the end of the term or end of the course with a final grade of A, B, C or credit pass. Again, we are kind of consistent. And the peer group rate, we are definitely doing better than the average students, and with the state average, we are definitely doing better than them too. This is the improvement rate for credit basic skill courses. And if you look at that, we are kind of staying steady on this too. But in the peer group rate, we are slightly below average, and the state rate, we are again slightly below average. This is the percentage of students who successfully completed an initial credit-based skill course, whether it be reading, writing, or mathematics, and who within the 3 academic years, including the year and term of the initial course, successfully completed a higher level course in the same discipline. The next indicator is the COD improvement rates for the credit ESL course. As you might see, we have a drop in this in the final cohort, but we are doing much better than the peer group rate or the state rate. We really looked into this as to why this happened. This was the coding change that the state mandated. And also they started several levels of course below the course that was offered. So this was the coding change. The last one is the one that was started new. This is the 8th indicator. This has been only in the system for the last 2 years. So we do not have a comparison for the peer group or the state rate. So this is the one that we compared to ourselves for the last 2 cohorts. These are the first time students who in their initial term in the California system or the initial term plus the successive term, they completed 8 attended hours in any career development or college preparation course or a series of courses in their first term, and they have showed any of the following outcomes in the first 3 years of their entry. So we are kind of consistent and constant. The last slide is a comprehensive slide. Basically, we compared ourselves to the peer group average, and if you look at it, out of the 7 indicators, we are doing well in the 5 of those, and slightly below the peer group average on the 2. This is because of all the good work that was done with all the on-course assistants in the lab, in the math lab, and all the summer bridge programs that we have been offering. They have initiated this is the link that takes us to the old ARC report. We just had a demo of the new ARC that's coming out from next year onwards, so you'll see a whole new format next year. And before I forget, let me thank Emila, who is here in the audience, who helped me with the data on this one. Any questions?
I'm sure we use this in the planning process.
Yes.
Any questions from the board? Are we still digesting?
We're still digesting. You could send that so we
Yes,
can get
sure.
a copy.
Leanne has that.
of the
Leanne has
PowerPoint
that. Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
I don't know, I'm sure, would you like?
Yes.
Yeah, we would all love a copy of this.
Leanne has that.
So it kind of points out where we have any major problems, in a sense. I mean,
Yeah.
10 or 15% below is different than 0.9% below.
Yes.
So overall, we're not having major problems.
No.
By comparison to the state average,
Yes.
we're pretty much where we should be.
Yeah.
The ESL, they've reconfigured how we coded those classes, so that's bothering us. Does it reflect in any way the number of students we have, or is there any way to show, because you can be in an ESL class and have come up in a home where another language was spoken, but you heard English at school, or you can be in an ESL class and have just arrived in this country having never spoken English. So there's a lot of difference there. Is that ever shown in any way?
We haven't done that, but we could do that.
I think we're not at the point to do that yet, but probably something we'll need to think about in the future, because I know
K through 12 does that. As a former ESL instructor, K through 12 does that, and I think we do have some data. I think one. I think maybe you're talking about the speaking Spanish at home versus native speakers versus non-native speakers? And what is the data on that? And maybe we can investigate that.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can do that. I don't know that it's something we need you to spend your time on right now, because I know that you're up to here, something we need to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Beta, very much.
Oh, yeah, good.
Okay, our next report is by Dr. Young, and she's going to be presenting the nursing program change and admission policy.
Welcome.
Hi. Welcome and thank you. And I'd like to introduce Margaret Rose. She's a fourth semester RN faculty. She's also the assistant director of the RN program and the chair of the RN program. And I brought her here specifically to answer any questions about the process, but I want to give you a little bit of background as to what's involved with this. I believe it was a couple of board meetings ago, I think, Trustee Marmon, you asked that we address this issue about how we choose the 30 seats out of the over 200 applicants that we get every semester, and that's what this is addressing. This is not a change in the requirements for the certificate or the degree, nor is it a change in the prerequisites. All this does is change the way that we choose those 30 seats out of the 200 applications we get every semester. Okay? Years ago, we used to rank students to get in, and the chancellor's office actually decided that that violated open access because it was discriminatory against the open access policy. So in 2002, there was a report published based on a study to validate the prerequisites required, the eligibility, and the process for determining those seats in an impacted nursing program. So this is all legislated, and it's in AB 1559, I think, something like that. But anyway, in 2006, they required us to use those entrance eligibility requirements, and they also required us to use what is now commonly known as the lottery system, which I keep telling people is just a randomized number system. But it really was it is a lottery. But in 2009, which is what I'm going to give you, the Chancellor's Office sent a memo out which gave nursing programs the option to abandon the lottery system for choosing those seats and actually elect to use what's called a multi-criteria system. And our nursing faculty decided at that time that they wanted to wait and see what other nursing programs were doing and how they did it. And last year, we've been monitoring the other nursing programs and seeing how they've worked it out. And in this last fall, the nursing faculty met several times and actually decided on a multi-criteria system, and that's what we want to present to you now. Okay, so first I'd like to give you the memo from the Chancellor's Office that actually dictates how that multi-criteria system works, and then I'll show you what the nursing faculty decided on. When you see the memo from the Chancellor's Office, you'll notice that they have 5 areas, and those areas cannot be, we must give points in those 5 areas. And in fact, that is on the very last page of the memo, and those areas are overall GPA, GPA in the prereqs, assessment of readiness test results, degree or work experience, life experiences, and language. So those areas we must give points to, and those are the 5 areas that are, and so in other words, the Chancellor's Office identified the criteria. It was the nursing faculty that decided on the weight that was given to each of those areas. Yes, go ahead.
So they must be scored in each of those areas from
Yes.
like 0 to 5?
I think that they actually give you quite a leeway in terms of how much weight you want to give those different areas. And they gave us the option of defining those areas they gave us leeway in how we define those areas. So the nursing faculty, and that's why I brought McGee here, had some excellent discussions to determine what they thought were important areas to weight more heavily than other areas. So this is a faculty-driven decision, but it is the only thing it does is change the choices of those 30 seats out of the 200. And it does weight a 4.0 quite heavily. And I know that is something that both you and the community have wanted us to do for a long time. An anecdotal comment about that is that this validation study that has basically fed this legislation does not indicate that a 4.0 student entering a nursing program is any more successful than a 2.5 student entering a nursing program. That's why the minimum GPA is 2.5 to get in, because this study validates that that is the barrier for success, or one of the criteria for success in a nursing program. Interestingly enough, the other programs that do use this multi-criteria have not indicated an increase in success rates, pass rates, or retention rates. So in other words, I guess the comment I really want to make is it doesn't matter what system you use. We have more eligible, qualified students trying to get into the nursing program than we have seats for. And so there will be, no matter what system you use, we're going to miss excellent students because we don't have the seats for them. Interestingly enough, also, the nursing faculty, after they decided their criteria, they went and actually took the files of successful students in our program now, and half of them would not have gotten in. But we will get half of other students who will be successful. So it's just a process of how we choose those students.
Leslie, is there any place in this system where local is
Yes.
considered?
Yes.
What would it fall under?
So if you look at the criteria that the faculty have chosen, if you would, I think it's under section 3 called life experience or special circumstances. If you're a veteran, if you have 12 units at COD, if you come from a healthcare academy, at the healthcare academy, we're giving you points in number 1 for that. And then if you're a COD student, you'll get extra points for that.
And if you're local, you get points for that.
Yeah, in fact, when we presented this to the Ed Policies Committee, they actually recommended that we identify the healthcare academy as a local healthcare academy. They wanted us to give preference to the Coachella Valley High School Healthcare Academy students.
Good. Anything about first in the family to come to college?
It's right there.
Yes. So if you look under the list of life experience or special circumstances, there's 10 different life experiences that you will get credit, up to 5 points for, and that is in there. First generation of family to attend college.
So if you were to look at what got in before and what gets in now, it would be a little different.
It's going to be a different student.
The outcomes is kind of the same,
Right.
But more of them will be local.
We always gave preference to local students, and we were allowed to do that under the lottery system. We could give what was called, I forgot the name of what they called it, but we were allowed to give preference, and we did give preference to local students because that's what the local hospitals asked us to do when they were hiring. The other thing I would just like the opportunity to tell you is we do have an impacted program, but there are 4 things that would contribute to the decision as to how large our nursing program is, because some people might say, well, why don't you just make a bigger program? Well, there are 4 things that you have to consider in growing a nursing program. One is faculty. They're extremely difficult to recruit because they can all make a lot more money in the local hospitals. So it's a very difficult recruitment. The second thing is space in our clinical local healthcare facilities. Years ago, we were the only game in town, and we are no longer the only game in town. So we are sharing clinical space in our hospitals, and the hospitals are restricting only 7 students to a floor or a unit right now. So that's a consideration. Budget is always a consideration because our ratios are low, so it makes it an expensive program. And the fourth consideration is the labor market. Years ago, our students were hired before they even finished or were pinned. And those of you who came to our pinning ceremonies, it was actually announced that they were hired into the ICU or the ER. That is no longer true. There is a nursing shortage, but not in the Coachella Valley. So our students can get jobs, but not as easily as they were before if they want to stay in the Coachella Valley. And the local hospitals are going for what's called magnet status, which means that they want their floor nurses to have BSNs. Our advisory committee group tells us they love our students, they prefer our students, but they want them to get a BSN. So.
And they would get that at Cal State?
Yes, we have a pathway that's been developed between us and the program at Cal State. So it's called the RN to BSN program, and we have a pathway in place.
So is there a lack of jobs because people are moving here already having been certified, or have we grown enough homegrown people through our program and our competition?
No, it's 2 reasons, and maybe McGee can add to this, but one reason is that the local nursing workforce is not retiring as expected because of the economy, so the spaces are not available. The second reason is that a lot of our bed space in the hospital is actually used by what's called elective surgeries, and when people don't have jobs and don't have insurance, they don't elect to have surgeries. So hip replacements, for example, is considered an elective surgery. So our bed census is actually not going up. Or they're doing this stuff where they, in other places where they live.
So our seasonal people are not having their seasonal surgeries.
Right.
Well, I think we need to do a better recruitment of our seasonal people.
Botox doesn't require an overnight stay in the hospital.
Does a complete facelift?
They usually do those in outpatient surgery centers.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Do you want to add? The one other thing about the job placement is that there is definitely a nursing shortage, but not necessarily a shortage of new nurses.
Oh, that's the other thing.
That the experienced nurse is what the ICU, the emergency department, the operating room, they're looking for experienced nurses, and that affects our graduates as well. The hospitals are, regardless of what happens in this valley with population, since I've been teaching and been an educator over at one of the hospitals, the number of new nurses that they hire each semester is really no different. And watching it ebb and flow, the hospital can only absorb so many inexperienced people, regardless of what's going on in healthcare and census and all of that. They can't put 10 new nurses on the night shift. They can put 1 new nurse on the night shift. So then as their censuses go down, they can't absorb that many. So it really isn't that different than when I was 20 years ago working at Eisenhower running their new graduate program. We would usually hire about 10 or 15, and when I watch the numbers, it's really not that different.
Is the way we choose candidates for the LVN program any different now?
The LVN program is not impacted. So most applicants who are eligible for entry into the LVN program are accepted.
There's a need for those?
Not as much as RN. Yeah. In fact, San Jacinto has just closed their LVN program because of labor market. We have 24 in our LVN program now, and it is not an impacted program. But it is an excellent avenue to get into the RN program because we offer what's called a transition, an LVN to RN program. So if they have an LVN license, they can apply to our transition program, which is also not impacted. complete that one semester, and then enter as an advanced placement RN student in third semester. So it's an excellent avenue. The part that is a little bit crazy is that the prerequisites for the LVN program and the RN program are different because they have different boards. So the requirements are different. So if we have a student going into the LVN program that's interested in the RN program, we try to help and counsel them about the RN prerequisites because they're different. It's not just getting your LVN license. You also must meet all of the eligibility requirements. We are a vocational program as opposed to a four-year program, let's say at Cal State, which incorporates all of the general ed with it. In our program, you must meet all those prerequisites before you come into our program, and you are required to complete all of your GE requirements on your own. We actually hope that they finish them before they come into our program. Because all we do is the nursing program, nursing curriculum.
I haven't had a chance to look through all this. Is there anywhere in there where there's a fitness requirement?
There is not.
Maybe there should be?
Fitness requirement.
Well, there is a, for graduation requirement.
Ability to lift.
Oh, yes.
That.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That's what it means.
In our catalog, there's something called Core Performance Standards, and there are 3 or 4 areas. Boy, I didn't look at that before I came here, but Adrian might remember because I think you were involved in getting that into the catalog. There's 3 or 4 areas, and it's your visual ability, your you have to lift so much, you have to have, and it really is important for those students who are DSPNS students because they can be in our program, but they do have to meet certain minimum requirements to be an RN.
Leslie, I think it's physical demands, the core
Thank you.
performance. I have it on page 110.
Okay, there you go.
Physical demand, senses, and attitudes and aptitudes.
Right.
So
Thank
they
you.
have to be able to run from one part of the hospital to the other.
Exactly, yes.
You know, we worked on this way back.
Yeah.
We talked about phys ed requirement.
Well, they have
Except
to.
in some of the nursing programs.
They have to have their 2 units of kinesiology to graduate with a degree from COD at this time.
Yeah.
It's probably going to change, but
Well-
it is now. Why do I say that?
So, well, we worked together on some of that. Some of the programs that we needed, you require them to do that in your introduction to nursing courses.
Right.
Things like that. We know that they get an education about how important that is.
Right. Yeah, they're required to have what are the science requirements? Biology, anatomy, physiology, and microbiology, and a transferable English class with a research component.
Are our science classes still fairly rigorous?
Oh, yes.
I know we've had students before try to go somewhere else for those.
Yeah, they're still very rigorous. The one interesting thing, and this is just my own comment, is that even 4.0 students going through the science programs still find the nursing program difficult because we're not a rote learning program, we're a critical thinking program. So it's a whole different type of education, and that's my comment as to why a 4.0 and a 2.5 maybe has the same chance of being successful. It's not the type of education that they're used to in the sciences that they've had.
Probably how badly they want it too.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the 2 things, knowing what we were doing and knowing what we are going to do. And maybe we can give a better answer sometimes. And I know whenever I've had somebody question me, I've said, call her.
Absolutely.
They've been quite open to that, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, I think there's some misunderstandings about what we do and why we do it, but I want you to understand that we're legislated how we do this, and we need to.
But you are making the new step.
Yes, this will be in effect in fall of 2014. We must post this on our website for 1 year in order to give students who are in the catalog under the old requirements the time to pass to take advantage of that selection process. So this.
Can't run a dual.
Maybe.
I mean, it would seem to me it would give you the opportunity to transition into this new one as you're allowing current catalog students the opportunity to.
That's a good suggestion, thank you. I think we'll go back and think about that. Actually, one of the main reasons I wanted to come and present this to you is informational, but as well as for feedback. If you see something that, we want you to ask questions and make comments, because we haven't done this yet, so we don't know how it's going to work. We just know what other schools have done. So if you have an opportunity to look through what the Chancellor's Office requires us to do and what we've done, and if you have any comments, we welcome them. We will certainly consider them.
Michael, what was your comment? I think this is quite transparent. This is what, I think in the past, maybe our criteria were a little bit nebulous in some class.
Well, it was
This is just, it's right here.
It's all there.
It's right
It's fair. And I think from the students' perspective, we've shown this to the students and said, what do you think? And they feel that it's more fair. They were frustrated by the process. The faculty feel that we deal with the public, with the hospitals, often saying, I know someone that's a 4.0, how come you guys won't let them in? Cal State will let them. We get it all the time. From a public relations standpoint, I think this would be more positive. And then some of the weighting, if you're looking to say, why do you think the faculty likes that more than that or whatever, that comes from our evaluating student success. And a lot of times some students come to our program, maybe they get really, really good grades and they get in and they were shocked to realize they had to take care of sick people. And they're gone in the first semester and they're taking up a seat. So that's some of when you see kind of philosophically why you see that we looked very heavily at life experience, and students that we know usually do better because they're familiar with the environment. Because we know the 2.5 can do just as well as the 4.0. But if they're enculturated, the enculturation is different. So a lot of what you'll see there is that's our philosophy, and like I said, we ran students in all directions. Students that we thought would be successful are really successful, not successful, to kind of see how they would do their points.
That gives you the opportunity to use your professional background, your knowledge to implement a better program.
I think
it took a lot of work. We appreciate it.
And it's going to take a lot of work for our staff, and everybody's on board with it. We want to give it a go. We want everybody to understand it.
Yeah, the staff is nervous.
Yeah, they're nervous.
I really like this process. I always heard nursing students that were trying to get to the program, like through the 4 years I've been here almost, they always had a problem with the lottery system, but I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are students who tried to get in the program for 5 years and their number wasn't picked, and then someone who applied for the first time, they've gotten in. So now they know what the points are that they can get to improve. And something McGee brought up recently is that actually this may encourage students to get better grades. Because there's a lot of points given for a 4.0.
What I think, it might encourage.
It's very good.
Right. Instead of all I need is a 2.5, maybe they'll work a little harder.
Pass that class.
So
a C pass.
There still may be a random drawing.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Sure.
it'll be a smaller pot
Yeah.
that reaches that area, that pot.
Yeah. And please remember, there will be students who are eligible and would be great nursing students that will not get in. This isn't going to solve all our problems. It's just a different way to select those 30 seats.
And sadly, even if we got them all in and through the class, and they were the best nursing students to ever graduate, there's not a job for each and every one of them out there.
Not unless they want to move.
Well, one of them is language too.
Yes.
And by that you mean multiple, somebody is.
Actually, the Chancellor's Office actually identifies the languages that we can give credit for. And we're now in the process of trying to determine how we're going to validate that language. Some of the other nursing programs actually require transcripts with courses in that language at a particular level. That's one option. Another option is there are online programs that a student can take a test, an online test.
They could either collect that Spanish test or that, as I see in your matrix, American Sign Language, which is great for our disability community, Tagalog for the Filipino community, Arabic and Chinese. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So we may use some kind of an online program to determine their level of fluency. We're not quite sure how we're going to do that yet. We're still trying. We got a year.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Well, I would have trouble with English, obviously.
Leslie, I have a question. Being new on the board, I'm just thinking, the Borrego Health District, is there a partnership with that? I'm just asking because...
We have a partnership with the the Healthcare District. Mm-hmm. Is it the Inland Regional Healthcare District? Yes. Is that the name of it? Sorry, it just escaped me. Yes. Actually, an excellent relationship. They've donated to our program. We have an endowment from them for our Director of Nursing. They have bought equipment for our skills lab. They're an excellent partner.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rose. Thank you very much. It's very, very positive and uplifting. And again, to repeat what the president said, it's nice to be focusing on students.
Yes.
Yes, and I want to thank you as well. Exceptional presentation. Thank you. And then Venus before, Dean Isaac before. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we going into closed session or are we finished?
We have just...
excuse me, Dean, I'm sorry, interim vice president, I forgot you.
On the accreditation update, I had that as a placeholder because I thought I might receive something that would be relevant, and I have not, so.
So let's put it back as a placeholder in the future for when we really need to grow into where we stand in that revolving door.
And could you include in that the nursing,
Yes.
national nursing
Yes.
accreditation
Yes.
verification?
That will be something we'll be able to update on.
No, it's okay, Leslie, go.
No. She heard that.
I don't have a mic in front of me, so I'll just speak loudly. Hopefully you can hear me from this distance.
The microphone man.
Thanks for the recording.
We're saving money on microphones.
I know we're watching the clock because we do have an event coming into the facility very shortly. So I just wanted to give you one quick update on federal grants. With sequestration being discussed at the federal level, our federal grants are looking at their dollar amounts. It's a potential that if sequestration does happen, there's a 5% cut automatically that they have to deal with. Potentially, in some programs, they've talked about as much as 8%. So we've begun to look at our grant programs to see how they would be impacted. It wouldn't go into effect until next year. Obviously, there's several months between now and their start of their grant year next year. But we are preparing for that. We are really starting to look at those numbers to see what sort of impacts it would be.
So it would it be this October federal fiscal year?
Depending on the start of the grant year, potentially July, October, or September. So it just depends on the grant and kind of when they're funded. But we wanted not to kind of sit around. We're just making sure that we're taking a look. So aside from that, there's a lot of great activity in student affairs. But there were several questions raised today about some of our grant activities. So we'd love an opportunity to present to the board globally what's going to happen in student affairs. We have a lot of activity around the student portal. We're about to do our early alert pilot. So there's a lot of great activity that we'd like to share with you. And then certainly gets into specifics around the HSI grant because there's been a lot of great activity over the last 3 years.
I think today's presentations, where we have people at about 20 minutes or so, was great. If we can get some, this is the kind of stuff we've been missing for a while now. We've been so focused on other aspects of the college that it would be great to get back to various programs or departments giving us brief updates as to what's happening. Because it's good information for us to have, and I think it's important that people get to express their successes.
Absolutely.
I would like to raise a question of privilege, which is a motion to interrupt, and just say I'd like to add that maybe at every board meeting we have someone in your line, Chairman O'Neill, that they can give an update, let's say on the ESL, the nursing, the automotive, the culinary, So if I raise a question of privilege, I'd like to see if we can have that in each of our board meetings. I don't know how.
That might be a little too often, it's just a thought on my top of my head.
Well,
I don't know exactly what you mean, maybe.
Just a short, that they tell us, this was a great, for me, knowing about our nursing program, it was a great presentation, but I would like to see this once in having that from our different departments, so we know, and the public knows, and other faculty members know what's going on. So that's.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you wanted it every month. You want something from various groups one time. Okay. Now I follow.
One recommendation or consideration is, I know we have topic, different meetings where we have these topics. We could incorporate what you have expressed that you're interested in today and at other meetings into our calendar and predetermine when we'll be coming to you and adopt that. And that will also give staff an opportunity to know when, and they can begin preparing. And so we can plan out the whole year if you would like.
Yeah, that's an excellent
Thank you. That's what I was saying. Thank you very much.
We've done it before, but I think we establish priorities.
Oh, okay.
Ones we really want to see. And it changes all the time. And this, again, this was very informative.
We'll work on that.
Unless there's an objection, we will adjourn. Adjourn.